Just a couple of guys, a couple of microphones, and a heck of a lot of know. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
What they say, it's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, and alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
What's going on, Know-It-Alls? Welcome back for another edition of Football on the Know Show, playoff edition. That's right. We're getting close. We're getting nasty. This is right down to the very last second of the season. It's right upon us. Playoffs. We're talking playoffs.
Oh, playoffs. Yeah, you mean playoffs. Absolutely. And last week, dude, it was nuts. It was nothing like I thought it was even going to imagine. And I even talked about possibly the difference of putting backups in, what it might happen for teams, but it wasn't even some of those teams that mattered with. It just other teams played harder against some of these teams that are rolling into the playoffs. I mean, we saw the Packers, again, having the chance on the line to be there in the playoffs at home. And the Lions, they go and play spoiler right there in Green Bay. Joe, what do you think about that?
I mean, isn't that something that we hinted at it? We hinted that we could expect that to happen, where the Lions could spoil the plans of the Green Bay. Green Bay wins, they're in. You know, and what better way for the Detroit Lions to not only cap off the end of the season, but also to put a little knife in the back of Green Bay, saying adios, see you later.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's been pretty crazy here, Joe. Crazy week 18, but we are going to get into it right now with everything. So,
listen, everybody, if you're new to the show, if you're just tuning in, it's first time visualizing us out here talking football, listen, this is the ultimate and most interactive football talk show there is. Come prove us that we're right. Comment down below. We're going to react to you. We're going to respond, and let's have a great time. If you're new and you want to stay linked up with us, head over to YouTube for us. Hit that subscribe button. Search us up, Football on the Know Show. And while you're there, also hit the notification bell. Let you guys know when we go live, as well as you can also follow us on Twitter at FB_Know. And Facebook, and anywhere. You can also take us with you in your travels. Anywhere you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, you name it, we're there. Hit a follow along in this journey. Let's go, Know-It-Alls.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So, Joe, again, we know after the end of the season, it happens. It's, Black Monday or whatever. There they go.
Yeah,
they're going to start
now.
hiring and firing and all that stuff. And wouldn't you know, lo and behold, Lovie Smith, we talked about it last week about how he was going to be evaluated after this last game here of the season. And he's one of these one-and-done coaches. And what's funny is, like, this year to even the last couple of years, it seems like this seems to be like a trend with some of these teams. We didn't usually see like a one-and-done coach. Usually they're given a few years to set in place their plan, and it takes a little bit because you got the draft and a few other players that were already on from the previous regime. You're feeling them out, see how they're going, and then you want to implement, like I said, your plan the next couple of years. But Lovie Smith, one and done, he's out. Joe, what do you think about it so far?
I mean, I think, honestly, it's like we kind of saw this coming. He was more likely like just a stopgap type of head coach hire, and didn't expect him to be long-term. We've seen him before in Chicago and struggle in Chicago and not have a good record and really didn't make good football decisions as a head coach. Now he gets like kind of like a, like, hey, here's your last-ditch effort to be a head coach and maybe prove to everybody that you could be a good head coach. Just didn't happen for him, and we kind of saw this coming. And Houston, listen, they knew they had a problem. Now fast forward to the end of the season, but it could turn out to be a good problem to have, because by having him as a stopgap coach, now they can set their sights on a guy like Sean Payton, who's available right now. And we know that there's a couple other teams that are interested that have already put in for interview requests, and they're all going in. Listen, if you have a head coaching vacancy, that's the number one candidate you want. Guy that's proven, a legendary coach even. You know what I mean? He's seen in the same sight as like Andy Reid, a guy who is a visionary, a guy who's an offensive-minded coach, a guy that can really kind of turn your program around. So, I mean, that should be the target for anybody at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting for that. But you got to think about with Lovie Smith here. Cody, what do you think about the situation here with Lovie Smith? We got Cody Cook here with us now, Joe. He's a know-it-all. He's our producer here along with us. Let's go to Cody over there. What do you think, Cody, about this whole Lovie Smith situation?
I mean, we definitely all saw it coming. I wasn't a big fan of the hiring, even initially seeing it. And their season panned out the way I thought it would at the end of the day. I wasn't expecting a lot of wins. You got Davis Mills, who even disappointed as to what they thought he was going to do this season. It was just a little weird seeing them go out, win the last game, little bit of a morale boost. But Lovie Smith, that also cost you guys the #1 draft pick this season, as their wins secured Chicago grabbing the #1 draft pick. So Lovie Smith, not successful, and he couldn't even lose right at the end.
Yeah, so. Right. And isn't that funny, too? It's like, that makes you almost think about it. It's like, because we heard that he was getting evaluated after the last game. So what was the evaluation? Like, we want to make sure that you don't play hard here so we get the #1 pick overall. And then he goes out and he's like, F that, we're going to go win. And then they go win, and they're like, you didn't do what we told you to do. What are you doing? That's it. You're fired. It's like, is that what was the straw that broke the camel's back? Because even though for a losing team, we knew that the Texans weren't going to be very good, but they were in close in game, a lot of games throughout the season. Better, put up more of a fight than I thought they would this season, and kind of competitive. So again, what was it that really, really did it for them?
For Lovie Smith, like I said, he was just a stopgap hire anyway. This was going to be a one-and-done season for him, regardless of what happened. Even if they ended up 500, he was going to be out the door. I mean, this is not a guy that has a track record that is winning. So for him to come in, and to be honest, it was mostly the players making those close games happen. It's the talent that they've had previously, like the Davis Mills, like some of the draft picks that they had that kind of popped out of nowhere. Jalen Petrie as safety, Landry, the corner. Like, there was some things that they were putting in place in this off season that were looking pretty good down the stretch. And we saw some ups, a lot of downs, but nonetheless, we saw a team that was willing to fight, kind of like the Detroit Lions. They never really truly gave up. And you saw, even for Lovie, they ended up winning a game that they shouldn't have won. So for Houston to do what they've been able to accomplish this season was a good thing to see for Houston fans. They saw something. They saw some kind of a spark from time to time. But now it's go and get the right head coach, get the right coaching staff put in place, and let's see what you can do going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, it was interesting, and they definitely did put a fight here. Cody, we got some comments in the house tonight. Who's in the house with us?
Yep, we got Brando, Mr. Brandon D'Angelo.
What's going on,
popping
Brando?
in.
Welcome to the show.
Nice to see you in. We also got a comment from Mr. Tom Leiter.
Tom Leiter's in the house,
Oh,
too.
gee.
Seattle
Tom.
has the richest owner and could make Smith the highest paid defensive coordinator ever.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, who knows with Seattle? They're making a good push, too. How about that? And again, we talked about the Detroit Lions game. In Seattle, that game ended first before that. So, they needed Detroit to pull out that victory to ensure that they were going to make it into the playoffs. But that one went to the overtime with the Rams and everything. And that 12th man, it was a lot of energy behind that stadium, and then also the city in general. So who would have thunk it too, Joe? I mean, this is what's crazy about this playoffs. We'll talk about the playoffs in a little bit, but I mean, some of the teams that are in here and the way they've got in, it's pretty nuts.
Absolutely. And after watching the season this year, how could it not be? I mean, we've seen surprise wins, surprise devastating losses by teams by handing over. I mean, remember the Vikings game where the Vikings were down by 33 points at first half, and they end up coming all the way back in the second half. I mean, there was games like that throughout the whole season, nail biters, what have you. But man, really exciting season. Now I can't wait to see what the playoffs are going to bring, because we know that the teams that are in there right now, they're going to do everything they can to get to the big dance.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to wrap it up about the Texans and Lovie Smith and that, the fact that he's being done, we heard about it throughout the season that Brandon Cooks, he was, going to sit out. I don't want to play for these guys. I demand a trade. Didn't get traded at the trade deadline. No. But now since Lovie Smith has been fired and he's moved on, Brandon Cooks is again saying, listen, I don't want to be part of a rebuild. I want out, and I'm confident that my camp and my guys here are going to do what it takes to get me from here to there, wherever that may be, but get him out of there. So, I mean,
yeah, the writing was on the wall for Cooks. Like, we already knew that he wanted to be traded. Didn't happen. They kept him there anyway and said that he was going to meet with management. He was going to meet with the GM, and, hey, listen, I don't want to be part of a rebuild. I want out. I wanted out before, and you didn't grant me my wish. So I'm just letting you know now, going forward. Listen, because I think Cook is fully prepared to just sit. Like, if you're not going to give him the ability to be traded, or even if they can, I don't know if they can, cap wise, if they could just flat out cut him and be okay with it. But he wants out, and he wants to go play for a team that is going to aim to win.
Yeah, absolutely. Cody, what do you think about this?
All right, so with the Cook situation, there are plenty of teams out there right now that are pretty desperate for wide receivers. You know, the Giants are going to be looking to make a lot of moves in the offseason to really bolster that wide receiving core. You know, you got guys like Cooks right now. We hear the rumors about DeAndre Hopkins also hopping onto the trade block. So there's going to be a lot of interest for Cook going into the offseason. I don't think the Texans will have much trouble moving him, despite the lack of production this year and just the amount of times he's bounced around over the last couple seasons.
And how about that, though? You bring up him bouncing around for a couple of seasons, and it was always like he got traded to this team and to that team, and like all small stints, too. Like never was there for 3 to 4 years or anything. It was always like, oh, I was there for a year, then I got traded again.
Well,
then I got traded again.
Yeah,
it's like he has not even like really his own fault, but he's gained a stigma of being a guy just, he's not good enough to stick with this team. We got to bounce away from him because for whatever reason, whether it be an inept offense ran and he doesn't do that well, and now we're going to move on from a high-priced guy like Cooks was getting paid. Yeah. It seems like at some point you would hope that this guy would actually end up maybe proving himself that he can be a good number 2 or even a number 3 guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And kind of be part of an offense instead of everybody always saying, well, it's time to go.
Yeah. And it ends up for him, it almost seemed like he was just jumping from team to team to almost, ring chasing in a sense too. Cause there's times he was there with, the Patriots, and then there he was with the Rams too. And teams, they're all contenders at one point, but just couldn't get it done with them. Goes to the Texans, and that's where I think where he feels like, oh man, I've been traded here to go to die. You know what I mean?
And the crazy thing about those trades is like they weren't him. He didn't ask for a trade. He was just getting traded. Like New England was interested in him. Hey, let's pull off a trade. Okay, boom. You know what I mean? Was with the Saints. Was with New England. You know what I mean?
It just didn't work out for him. But I mean, there you go. He's asking to want out and stuff, and we'll see where that could be interesting at the end of the season. There's going to be a lot of stuff with the quarterbacks, the carousel there, where some of them might go. Wide receivers everywhere. I mean, it's going to be pretty nuts.
Listen, we thought
OBJ hasn't gone anywhere.
We thought last offseason was absolutely insane, right?
Yeah.
All the big name trades, all the crazy signings that transpired. Now it's going to be just as crazy again. Like the excitement is still going to be there because now you've got quarterback names and not just like, it's a backup quarterback, no big deal. Now you got some big names that are looking to be available. You have the whole Lamar Jackson situation. Tom Brady is looking to be a free agent, maybe going somewhere else. And now you have the whole deal with Derek Carr. And what's going to happen with him? Like, is he going to get flat out cut? Because there's a very, very tiny window for the Raiders to make a decision on that. And will he be a free agent and to be able to go to whatever team he deems worthy? Or if they're able to even consummate a trade with that tight window. So there's a lot of things that are going to happen this offseason. Buckle your chin straps, know-it-alls, because it's going to be crazy.
Absolutely. Tom Lader's in the house with us tonight. He says Pete Carroll, coach of the year after leading a rebuilt team with a bunch of rookies. And a branch. He's got a branch along with him. He's going to whack people with it. You never know with Pete Carroll, though. But I think he chews his gum so aggressively, I'm waiting for his teeth to fly out at one point. You know what I'm saying? He's getting older and stuff. They've got to be false at this point with how much gum he chews, too, right? But anyways,
a big wad of
with
gum.
a branch of of rookies.
He's got big league chew in those cheeks.
Yeah, and then who else used to do that? Then Tom whatchamacallit used to be like that. Tom Coughlin was like that too. He got crazy with the gum, right?
Yep.
It was
Yeah.
pretty crazy, man. Those guys
I
were
don't know.
crazy with
Pete
gum.
Carroll is pretty
He does,
crazy
dude.
with
He
the gum.
spits it out,
man.
starts whacking it with his hand across the thing too.
He's
He's
a bit
nuts.
more legendary.
Absolutely. All right. But a bunch of rookies and a career backup to the playoffs or what? So he thinks that possibly, he could be coach of the year. He's got, a leg to stand on that. I understand that. That's completely because, again, like I said, we didn't really see these guys making the playoffs. Now, I didn't, but there's a bunch of other coaches, too, teams that made the playoffs. Look at the Giants. Look at Brian Daboll there bringing the Giants, who, again, I thought we were going to be down at the bottom of the division. Look at the Jaguars. All of a sudden, too, looked like they had a rough start. They're feeling it out, too, in the beginning of the
they were.
season.
Young
But lo and
team.
behold, they talk about the hot teams that come and make that push at the end of the season and run through the playoffs. Right now, that could be the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I mean, and they were the surprise as we got farther and farther along the way in the season. We've already kind of before the season we made that decision that they have young talent. I don't know how quickly they can put it together with another new coach in Doug Peterson going forward with this defense and how they've kind of constructed it with a lot of rookies, a lot of youth. It was all about how can they gel? How fast can that defense gel to become a difficult defense to deal with? And then offensively, for Trevor Lawrence, how fast can he learn this offense? How fast can or how good can this offensive line come together and try to stay healthy all year? And they still got beat up along the way, but nonetheless, they did enough. And then now, as we get down to the end of the season, they've made some surprise wins happen. They've come together as a football team. The defense is playing much better than from week one and coming together as a whole. And for the Jaguars, this is the perfect time. Is not only are they rolling and they got some momentum going into the playoffs, but this is a team that could surprise some people. Like, they faced the Chargers, and the way the Chargers have kind of fell on their face at the end of the year, anything could happen. The Jaguars possibly could steal that game too.
Yeah. I mean, and Pete Carroll with the coach of the year. What do you think about that with the Seattle Seahawks that Tom White is saying here?
What's that?
Pete Carroll possibly being coach of the year, with what he's done with the
It's
Seahawks.
a chance. But
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, here's the thing: when you talk about like coach of the year, it's all about like what has that coach really made that much of a difference for the team to carry them to where they are. And to be honest, I would think it's the accelerated play of Geno Smith. It's not so much Pete Carroll. The young rookies that Tom is alluding to have already been developing. They've already been ready. They've been hunting people. And just because now that they start to get their names, out there and everything, and now people are starting to become more familiar with that, I think that they've always been good at finding young talent. So defensively, yeah, we didn't know what to expect from them because they were so young, but man, they came together super quickly and they were just hunting down people. Offensively, it's kind of the same offense, just the quarterback is different. And Geno Smith,
Well,
luckily,
a really good rookie running back there too, when he's healthy.
Geno Smith luckily became, what he did this season. He got better, much better. In fact, some people are pointing to him as like maybe even being, absolutely comeback player of the year.
Yeah.
But also there has also been people like fighting for him to become MVP because of what he's been able to do with that offense.
And Tom Leiter says Pete Carroll is the chief decision maker and drafted the 5 starters. So, I mean, yeah, I understand that. I know it's a players play, but again, you got to say it too with what the Seattle Seahawks have done, because again, you're expecting a rebuild. I think Cody and I had talked about it earlier, and finding those guys, the guys in the rough that some other people didn't see, and getting them in the later rounds, finding quality out of that, I mean, and that makes a difference for everything. But one guy that did kind of F up his career here, that's Cliff Kingsbury. He ends up getting fired after this. And I talked about this throughout the season, Joe, about, you're seeing it from Arizona newspapers, the websites around there, all around Arizona. They were the ones that are really stirring this whole pot across
as
about
media
this,
does.
as media does. And you didn't hear so much on the bigger, time channels, but around the Arizona media, they were really all on this thing and saying how he should be fired and stuff, and maybe go after the GM. But now GM after this firing too is officially he stepped down for a little bit, take away from things because of his health, but now he's officially resigned. So now they're out a GM and a head coach. They've already been doing some interviewing within the organization, and so they're searching right now. But what do you think about Cliff Kingsbury and this whole thing and this situation here with the Arizona Cardinals after Cody? Didn't they just get an extension? He just got an extension last year, 2022, right?
Yep, he was coming off a big extension, so we thought we'd see a bit more of Cliff Kingsbury sticking with this team, but after just an extremely disappointing season. When you got superstars on defense, you got J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins coming off a very injury-plagued, just disappointing season. Kyler Murray, we're not sure fully what's going on with him, whether he's playing too many video games or just not staying healthy for a small quarterback. A lot of issues that we kind of saw coming.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Joe, what do you think about the situation here with Cliff Kingsbury and everything in the Cardinals now? Do you think it's really justified, even though they've dealt with a lot of injuries, and then Kyler Murray's been in and out? So I mean, he wasn't playing well at first, but I mean, he's been injured.
That's kind of the thing that we saw this through the season where people wanted to call for his head, and it was like, wait a second, like this is a guy that when you first brought him in, your Cardinals organization was in dismay. It was terrible. You had no offensive line. You had you had Josh Rosen at the time when he came in.
Yeah, when he came in, that's what.
But that wasn't his guy. He wanted his guy. So
just
he
before
ends up
was a
going out
coach
and gets Kyler Murray in the draft and says, I can win with this guy. Okay, great. But you still don't have no offensive line. You didn't have any big-time weapons at receiver at all. You had a lot of young guys, unproven guys. And then defensively, it was terrible. They were like Swiss cheese. You could throw, you could run, you could do whatever you want with that team. But now, in the 3 years that he was there, you saw slow, steady success every single year. The team was getting better. The team was getting better. The team was getting better. Then they had that great year of 12-5, but fell short in the playoffs. And then this year comes and terrible season. Yeah, everything's going wrong. Whether it be coaching decisions, it'd be quarterback play. Kyler Murray getting injured, the offensive line injured for most of the season, if not all. And then DeAndre Hopkins was suspended for the first 6 games. So there was it was very hard to kind of get back on track. And defensively, they weren't playing well. Yeah, I don't know if that was more the D coordinator or if it was the players. In fact, they not even staying healthy half the time. So they were in and out of the lineup as well. So in a very bad season, everything that could go wrong went wrong. So for Arizona to kind of pull the plug on Cliff Kingsbury, I can understand if you say, okay, well, he never once had success, and it's his 4th year. Yeah, we got to pull the plug. We've waited way too long. But the fact that he had one horrendous year, which was a season, but the years prior when he came into the league and slowly, steady got better with that team, that to me, I think that was a little too quick. I think because you've had success with them, you've had success with that offense. When people are healthy, and they've done as well as 12-5, to the point where one dismal season, I think it's a little premature to just go ahead and say, oh well, we had one bad year, that's it, pull the plug.
Right. It really does seem really odd and premeditated in a sense, because we even remember the turmoil that happened, kind of, if you want to call it that, but the immediate explosion in the beginning of the season, early on, when Kyler Murray had that contract renewal, and they put that clause in there about again putting more study time in, like Cody was even saying about playing video games and stuff. It's just this, but now you move on, not from Kyler Murray, but the head coach. They said the whole thing revolves around whatever Kyler does is how this team is going to go, right? And he's been injured for most of the time again, right? So what changed between the coach and all that and the management and the ownership? Because, you seem like you had him going, you're moving on, but you put the clause in there to get Kyler to work harder. Right. But then you keep Kyler in this whole situation, and now you're hearing the fact that possibly he might be in the negotiations and talks in picking the new head coach. Yeah. So to go with them. So, and
we heard as we got close to this situation, we've heard numerous reports out of Arizona saying, hey, there's a little bit of friction here between Cliff and Kyler. You know, there was a little bit of an issue with the play calling even. Kyler Murray didn't always agree. We've seen that with Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. So the same kind of thing was happening back in Arizona, and to the point where there was so much, you know, aggravation between the two that the organization decided to stick with the quarterback. And that's kind of where we're at now. So they jettison out the head coach. All right, you're still going to go with the quarterback that throws tantrums, that is obviously not putting enough work into the playbook, you know, and staying and watching film and doing all the necessary things a quarterback must to be super successful.
Right.
So now that they made their decision now. They're moved on from Cliff Kingsbury. They're going to ride with Kyler. And for Kyler to be part of this process, usually you don't allow the quarterback to run your organization.
Right.
So if this is the case, if this is the kind of player he's become, I thought it would be a smarter decision to move on from Kyler.
Yeah.
But now that we're at where we're at, listen, you got to own up to your decision, Arizona.
Absolutely.
Now you got him as quarterback.
Yep.
You basically kind of help running the team now at this point. Who knows who their next head coach is going to be, but
Right.
I can be the only thing I could say for Arizona going forward now, that not they made this decision, is that Kyler Murray is going to be part of this process. But what kind of head coach are you going to be able to get with that?
Right.
Because if the mindset of a really good, like a Sean Payton,
Yeah.
we've heard reports that they're even looking into Sean Payton. Do you think Sean Payton wants to come into an atmosphere where, the other thing too is, it just popped in my head, DeAndre Hopkins is likely getting traded.
Yeah. I could see that happen.
I
It
heard
seems there
from-
was friction
I
even
heard
between
from
those guys
Arizona,
too, all the time. Right?
We've heard out of Arizona that they are looking to trade him this offseason. So now you're getting rid of your number one option. You got rid of your head coach.
Yeah.
What coach wants to come into this atmosphere not having Hopkins and Kyler Murray together?
Right.
Now you don't really have a true number one. You better hope that Hollywood Brown is going to somehow miraculously get better. And company. Like,
Yeah.
that's the real questionable thing. I think this is a bad decision by the front office, by whoever, the owner,
Right.
whoever's in charge of this at this
now,
point,
and
because
now
there's no
it's-
GM.
Right, yeah. So now you're looking for everybody, and then you're even stuck with some of the money, too, that you had paid when you redone some of the contracts and stuff, too. So, I
Right.
mean, if they just said, hey, that's what we're going to live with, we made that decision, it is what it is. So we got to see him on Hard Knocks during the season, but it'll almost be just as good to see him again this next coming season and say, what the hell is going to go on with this team, Joe? But it's pretty nuts. But let me tell you, one team that has not messed up and then something you can rely on is Colorize, Joe. Our friends here at Colorize, there they are. There's the logo there. 4 locations now: Queensbury, Clifton Park, North Greenbush now, and Niskayuna. Absolutely, they are the paint professionals, Joe.
That they are.
Not only just that they are a Benjamin Moore dealer, you're luckily Benjamin Moore dealer, but they are locally owned too and an independent dealer. So that means they can cover Sherwin-Williams, all the other stuff, Valspar, whatever you guys need. They can color match it, whatever they got to do for you. And inside the store, supplies everywhere for all your paint needs, whatever you need to do, your projects,
Right.
everything. Do even the vacuums to clean up the dust after sanding, everything you want. Check them out, mycolorize.com, or go to one of those 4 locations and talk to our friends there, especially my buddy Brett there. He's been at the North Greenbush one. Say hi, tell them Football on the Nose sent you.
That's
and,
right.
They'll hook you up with whatever you need here. So we got Mike Tackett in the house tonight, right there, Cody. There's our guy, Mike Tackett.
He's got first. Oh wow, there's a lot of comments here. We got
Come on, Mike, let's go.
happy hump day. Welp, I may have finished in 3rd place this year, but I did better than last season. Went 11-5 to make my final regular season record 156, 111-2.
All right. At least he's above 500.
Yeah, he
that's
is.
one
So
thing
there
that
you
I
go.
was concerned with going into the season. You saw how rough it was in the beginning.
Yeah, it was.
For us,
It was
the first
too.
half
It
of the
was
year,
nuts.
we were like missing on teams.
Yeah, absolutely. So here goes. He's got a bunch of other ones. He says, I have family in from China this week.
Oh, wow.
Aunt Rana says hi. Yeah. Did you hear about all
Hey,
that
what's
stuff? They've
going
been
on?
stuck there in China. They weren't able to do international travel at all. So people
Oh,
that were
man.
stuck here couldn't get back to China.
Right.
Everybody that was stuck in China finally were able to come back years
Wow.
later.
Wow.
So, I mean, amazing. You know, hi to them out there. He's got
Absolutely.
his playoff picks already. He's
Oh,
got
here
his,
we go.
He's got the
He's right on
49ers,
point.
the Chargers, Bills, Vikings, Bengals, and the Cowboys here. He's got the Cowboys in that one with the Bucks here. That's
That's a tricky game.
it is a tricky game. Tricky as maybe boring too at the same time, but yeah, tricky definitely. And he says, I told you about that toxic situation in Arizona a few weeks ago. Hard Knocks don't lie. He did. He brought it up, and we had brought up maybe the fact that, they go for drama on that show and stuff. But I mean, it's a different situation, and you would have thought that maybe because, when Cliff Kingsbury got hired, he goes and get Kyler Murray, like a guy that he was familiar with. It was just going to work. And it seemed like it was, like you said. And then this year's a total different thing, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, is we also mentioned about Hard Knocks. They only show you what you want, what they are allowed to.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to show whatever they want. So Arizona was like campaigning, basically, to get rid of Cliff Kingsbury the whole time.
You could be staging
They're like, hey,
there.
show that.
Yeah, throw it out there.
Friction.
This guy's a dirtbag, and his eyes always look watery.
Get him out of here.
Ew, what the hell, is he high? So it's like, so anyways, but I mean, amongst other things too, Joe, I think this past week we talked about the Green Bay Packers game and the Detroit Lions.
Right.
And that could possibly be the last game that not only that Aaron Rodgers plays, in Lambeau for the Green Bay Packers, but it could even be his last game ever, because the way he walked off that field and conversations that were had, I mean, we saw Williams there have a huge game and past Barry Sanders for the Detroit Lions and rushing touchdowns in the season. Emotional together, but he had asked Rodgers for the jersey to do a jersey swap. He said, "No, I'm going to keep this one." And the walk off with Randall Cobb, buddies, old time thing, and just hand in hand soaking it in. You could see it. It looks like he's ready to just walk away, at least from that stadium,
right?
Appreciating everything, but. And
does
he walk away from the game?
That's the funny thing about that whole scenario that played out. For him to refuse a jersey swap, no, I'm going to keep this one, making those kind of comments, to walking into the tunnel towards the locker room, arms wrapped around each other between him and Cobb. And then you could see them kind of almost having a conversation as they're walking, reminiscing almost. And that's kind of the way it looked. And then for his comments afterwards in the presser.
Yeah.
Being very kind of like hinting towards, hey, I'm not going to be here anymore. You know what I mean? Kind of like that. Like he's looking to move on.
Yeah.
And honestly, there's speculation out the wazoo right now. Like, oh, is he leaving? Is he going to get traded? Is he going to retire? Like, what's happening? Like, how could this happen? Rodgers, don't leave Green Bay. You know what I mean? There's like this kind of sense of suspense now in Green Bay. So not knowing what the future is for Rodgers and for Cobb, who knows? Maybe they both retire at the same time. Maybe they're both going to walk off into the sunset as retirees. Or does it mean that Rodgers just no longer wants to be part of a rebuild with Green Bay? Because this is a team that looked really disastrous early on. Yeah, they got it together a little bit down the stretch, but seeing some of the hints during the year, the whole debate against the GM, the whole like, I need more help. You got to get me more help, otherwise I'm not coming back. They're like, oh yeah, we'll do. Here's another big contract. Come back to us. And then as the season plays out the way it did, not up to the expectations of Rodgers. Now I wonder what he's thinking going forward. This could mean maybe he wants out. It could also mean maybe he's so fed up where he's like, I'm done with football.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Cody, what do you got here?
All right, so I think, at least in my opinion, that Rodgers, I don't think he's done yet. I think he still has a bit more to prove when it comes to, just winning a Super Bowl more often. He's got the one a while ago, but he still has that fire. You could see just the anger in every game, and he ended the season finally getting things going with the rookies. I think he's just going to try and find a better situation, with more receivers. He doesn't have to work with a bunch of rookies, and just an overall better situation where he can go in, get some wins. And we never thought we'd see Brady in a different uniform. Now we got to get ready to possibly see Rodgers in another uniform. Guys that I've grown up watching just throughout my entire football career.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. That's what we're starting to see sometimes. You know, Cody, we know he's a bit younger than we are, Joe. But he's got to witness a lot of different things. I mean, he's never seen, I don't think, a Tom Brady season that wasn't bad. You know what I mean? You know, he grown up, and so boom, there's Tom Brady.
Right.
We've seen other
He's a
greats.
god.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like that's what I mean. Some of his friends, you know. There are a lot of Patriots fans even out there just because when they were born, the Patriots were good, and that's how long Tom Brady's been there.
And man,
you know
were
what I
they
mean?
spoiled for a long time.
Right? Absolutely. So, I mean, that's all they've ever known. So imagine just growing up and then all of a sudden, yeah, these guys are winners, and then they keep doing it as long as they did. I mean, that was something astronomical.
Huge.
Something that our franchises don't really know too much about. But,
No, not at all.
But we know, but we have the history there, Joe. Our teams have been there from the beginning just about, you know what I mean? They're old school. So... yeah, I mean, but it's crazy. Aaron Rodgers, who knows what it could be? Because last year when he looked like he was ready to walk away then even, you know, playing the game. Not sure if I want to come back. I might do Jeopardy still. I've got options. The football is not exactly number one for me right now. So, yeah, I mean, he could walk away. But, let's just throw it out there, even Cody, get in on this too. Don't be afraid to just jump into whenever you want to. Yeah, I don't have to say, hey, Cody, what do you think? Yeah. Jump in whenever you want, man. What do you think about destinations possibly? So say he does want to play still, but just not for Green Bay. So he's got to do just like some of these other guys, veterans, ready, easy bake oven, boom. Him and Tom Brady both be in the market probably. Yeah. Where are they going to go? What do you think is a good fit for him right now?
Two different scenarios that come to mind like right away. I would say that the Saints is a good destination for any quarterback, like even Tom Brady. It's interdivision. It would be an easy transition for him to come to the Saints and immediately make that team win the division. You know what I mean? And then let's see what happens with a really good defense, a good offensive line, and weapons around him, like Chris Olave and so forth. But for Rodgers, he could also go to the Saints. It could be seamless. He could be just the dosage of quarterback they need to get them not only over the hump, win the division, but also he could probably take it pretty far with the Saints.
Yeah, a lot more accurate veteran quarterback than Andy Dalton has been for him.
I would say so. And then on top of that, the Raiders, because there's ties with Devontae Adams. And Devontae, for some odd reason, has been okay with the fact of moving on from Carr all of a sudden. He's like, oh, no, I'm going to remain here. I'm part of the plan, and we're going to see how this works out. But something doesn't seem right to me. Like... all of a sudden, you were like, I can't believe this is happening. Carr's gone. Carr was the only reason why I came here. And now all of a sudden, it's kind of like, kumbaya. Let's all just relax. Everything's okay. So there's something cooking in Vegas. I don't know what it is. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, no, it's definitely Tom Brady, 100%. But Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels do not get along.
No.
So that's why I kind of don't see that happening. But if, in fact, they had any kind of inside intel of maybe pulling off something to acquire Aaron Rodgers, that could make a lot of sense. And that's something that they could pull off now that Carr is no longer there and with the cap that they're going to have. So that's something else I thought. Also, like the Colts are always in the running for another quarterback. You know, it just seems like every single year, it's like the annual quarterback spree for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
So Carr could be an option. So, who knows? Anybody's an option, right? Usually it's quarterbacks at the end of the year, so maybe Tom Brady. But
any other places though for Aaron Rodgers? Do you really see maybe there is something there with the Raiders?
Honestly, there's also people saying maybe San Fran might be looking for a quarterback, but I tend to not believe in that because look at what they've had to invest at that position already. Yes, I understand Brock Purdy's a great story. He's amazing. He was Mr. Irrelevant in the draft and ends up panning out to be a very good game manager at that as a rookie.
Yeah.
Now, and he's going to further develop. He'll get even better. And on top of that, to invest a third overall pick in Trey Lance.
Yeah.
That's a lot of investment. You've drafted two quarterbacks, one at the end of the draft, one very high. You have to prove to the front office that this is the reason why you went out and got them, is to show, hey, we can win with these guys. That's how much we believed in them. So I don't see them kind of bringing in a veteran and kind of stunting that progress that they've made so far.
Yeah, I think that ship might have sailed for even him at this point because,
Yeah.
again, he can't stay on the field, couldn't get on the field before to win the job. So, I mean, who knows what's going on. Cody, what do you got with this? What do you think?
Yeah, well, you guys already hit a lot of the ideal scenarios. I guess I'll poke at one that's a little more far-fetched, but not impossible with the weird off seasons we've already been seeing. A team that could go from, kind of in the middle of a rebuild to all of a sudden competing for a championship. Maybe we see something weird with like the Chicago Bears in the offseason. If they could get a lot for Justin Fields, who, in my opinion, right now he's running really well, but we're just not seeing that kind of franchise caliber quarterback. They got the first pick in the draft. If they also find a way to get a hold of someone like Aaron Rodgers, we could see a huge turnaround for this team fast, and it would make it a very popular destination for free agents to come going forward.
Aaron Rodgers does own Chicago.
He does.
So
what do you
why
think
not
he's
move
gonna-
there?
Maybe he just goes in the end and buys them too. Flat out. Like, I'm just going to buy him.
I am the owner.
That's why now I really do own you again. It's just like it was almost like how the Patriots were like, you know what? We own the Jets all the time. So you know what? We're going to buy a bunch of jets nonstop and own our own jets all around. Everybody gets a jet. You get a jet. So they did. It was just crazy, with them. But yeah, Joe, I mean, it's something interesting to talk about. That's going to be a crazy offseason.
And
for
we're
me,
definitely
for
going to be
Aaron
talking
Rodgers,
more.
again, I could see him walking away, but, there's some spicy ones there,
Yeah.
too. If you see some of these playoff teams, I tell you, now that he's out, he can sit back, relax, do his ayahuasca, just chill by the TV and watch the playoffs and watch some of these other teams. Look at the Giants up and coming. Maybe he's like, if they thinks that they're not totally down with some Daniel Jones, maybe he's like, oh, maybe I can elevate them and get them back to the playoffs and do something with them. Maybe some of these other teams, like you said, San Francisco, that's in the mix. But there's a couple other ones here, though. So I mean, that could be interesting.
Yeah, there's a
to
lot of
change up stuff.
interest.
So
You got Tennessee.
teams that are pulling up, and that are maybe on the up and up and start to come. So
Tennessee's another team that's going to be looking to add to that position. Even though they drafted Malik Willis, we all know that he needs further development. And with Ryan Tannehill and getting back to his injury ways, not sure he's going to be up to the task coming back to Tennessee. So this is a team that, they have Malik Willis in their grasp. We've seen him a little bit, and he hasn't looked ready. You can clearly see that on the football field. That he's going to need a lot more work, in order to get him up to speed. So they might need a stopgap type of quarterback at the very least, maybe a couple 2 to 3 years. And who knows? Maybe they do target like a Jimmy G, or maybe they do target like a Derek Carr or something like that. So it's wide open like that for the first time. I think this offseason we're going to see a quarterback free agency period like no other. And we say free agency, but also like just in transcending, they could be traded. They could be signed like Tom Brady. Who knows where he's going to go if he leaves Tampa? There's no guarantee he does, but there's a really good shot. We've heard numerous reports about him moving on from Tampa and wanting to go somewhere else. But where is that? I mean, could be the Saints. There's a lot of different scenarios that's going to take place, but as we get closer to the offseason, we'll get that all dialed in for you.
Absolutely. Let me tell you that not a stopgap, and that's really a big family is our friends at Mohawk Honda. Joe, why don't you tell everybody about Mohawk Honda?
Let me just tell you about Mohawk Honda now.
Oh, you don't have to tell me I love Mohawk Honda,
Yeah.
but tell our
Our
viewers
boys,
out there.
Scott
listeners.
Moynihan, Greg Johnson, those big wigs down there, the head honchos that are at Mohawk Honda, they are definitely there for you to help you guys out, direct you in any way that you might can, and the whole staff there is great. They will answer any quick questions that you might have about vehicles or what's the process to purchase a vehicle or even sell your vehicle. And a lot of times you can get your trade-in value higher than you expected. So that's a pretty cool thing. Maybe you might want to explore that. And if you do so, make sure you look at some of these high-profile winter vehicles that they got out now. If you live in the Northeast or anywhere where there's crazy snow, they got all-wheel drive vehicles, Passports, Ridge Lines, you name it, CRVs, they got it. Like, these things are amazing in the snow. Go out there, get yourself one. Mohawk Honda, it's the place to be. They got the largest inventory around, so why not go there? Mohawk Honda, where they always go out of their way to please you.
There you go. Absolutely, Joe. Mohawk Honda, we love them. Love our sponsors. Cody, it is playoffs time, baby. You know what I'm saying?
Don't talk about.
Yeah, and we got this picture right here, Joe. It is wild card weekend. It is here after the NFL has now decided, too. They just didn't want to play that Week 18 game. They said, we'll just go off a win percentage and all that nonsense after that. But, hey, it makes it easier for them. They don't have to shuffle the teams or games around. But there it is, Cody. Let's bring it up again. Sorry, I'm chattering on. What do we got? There it is. There's the lineups that we have for the first week here. We've got the Chargers, the Jags out there. We got the Bengals rematch between the Ravens and the Bengals again. With Dolphins, and the Bills, they're division rivals. And again, we got the division rivals of the Seattle Seahawks and the 49ers here going here. And we get to also see the rematch of the Vikings and the Giants. So a lot of rematches in this. See, even the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Cowboys have played each other, I think, earlier this season too. I think first game, wasn't it? I think it was. Maybe
it was
I think
early.
they played it early on. I think they played each other early on. So
right.
a lot of these rematches throughout this whole wild card weekend, and it's going to be pretty intense here, Joe. Let's touch on the Jags and the Chargers quick here. You talked about it a little bit before how when we brought up about Coach of the Year. Again, and how I don't like to admit it, what he's been doing with the team, but they really did go from worst to first. Doug Peterson, you know what I mean? After being ousted in Philly of how he handled the last week of the season here too, with stopping the Giants from getting into the playoffs too, what he had done there and handling quarterbacks. Carson Wentz and him didn't go out long at 1.2, and Jalen Hurts, but here he goes working with his quarterback, and then now looking like a different guy. And then this team really gelled like mid-season, started to really pour it on here. They're making a push. And you brought it up before about the fact that when these two teams faced each other before, and the Jags unloaded on the Chargers, and then Chargers had been a team throughout season after season that, hey, this is the up-and-coming team. We love Justin Herbert. He looks good. And they fumble it all the time here, Joe. What the hell's going on with these guys? You don't never know what team you're getting weekly.
No, you really don't. And they're inconsistent, to be fair. Their offense looks stellar in the beginning of the year. Nobody can stop them, it looks like. The defense is coming along. They're healthy for once, and they look like a pretty daunting roster. But, man, have they kind of underachieved, I would say, with everyone staying mostly healthy throughout the year, which is more than you can ask for. But they've kind of spit and sputtered in a lot of different games that we thought that they would wipe the floor with the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons made that not only a game, Falcons probably should have pulled that one out. But there were several games like that where it went down to the end of right down to the wire, and they were just barely able to win, or they let the win slip through their grasp. And then as we get down to the end of the season, they look like a completely different team. They don't look like the team we saw in week 1, week 2, week 3. They look like a team that's still grasping straws on how to finish games. Their defense is not very good against the run. Their offense, if they haven't experienced playing a team in a while, they look a little shaken. They don't look themselves. But the Chargers, they are definitely more than capable, talent-wise, to win football games. It's just they haven't been put all the chips together in every single game. Now, this is a matchup in these playoffs. You're going against a young team that has a lot of momentum coming in, and you don't have any. So that's kind of questioning for me, like what to expect from these Chargers coming into Jacksonville. They have to travel. They got to go into Jacksonville and try to steal a win away. And this is a team with a lot of momentum. And on top of that, they're looking to win and get past round 1 at least. They're looking to gain more momentum for the following year. We're not expecting this team to push for the Super Bowl, but man, this is going to be one heck of a matchup for sure.
All right, so I think when I'm looking at this matchup, you just don't know what team you're going to get on either side. Jacksonville came out of the gate firing on all cylinders, did that huge win early on against the Chargers, and then they just kind of went cold for a good chunk of, I think, like 5 or 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden here at the end of the season, they came back on. Trevor Lawrence is finally playing almost, I don't want to say MVP, he's playing like the player they drafted. But with the Chargers all season, it's just been that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of team. You either get, the Justin Herbert MVP candidate, or you get the Herbert that struggled that we kind of saw a little more in college. So I'll be curious just what version of these teams we're going to see in this playoff matchup.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's the thing about this team. That was always kind of shady, even when I picked divisions early on in the season. I think one of these weeks we'll touch on how we did on some of those too, and how right or wrong we were. But again, I wasn't sold on how they were going to be. But this is why. It's not just injuries to the offensive line that they've had over and over again. In Keenan Allen in and out, Mike Williams getting involved. But the defense, too. We had question marks about the defense time to time, too, this season and stuff. So, I mean, even with the additions of, like, a Khalil Mack and stuff. So this team, again, go and beat the Kansas City Chiefs, but then, they'll lay an egg against somebody like the Jags or something. So this wild card matchup's going to be close. Now, like they've said before with a bunch of these other teams, now it's just your season starting again. Season 2 starting here. It's it. You're even here. So it's win or go home here. And it's going to be a pretty interesting match.
And real quick to touch on, both teams are really healthy.
Yeah.
Like there's not too many guys missing from the lineup. The only one for the Chargers is Mike Williams. Hasn't practiced as of yet, and he's trending on maybe missing this week's game. But other than that, both teams are pretty healthy coming into this matchup. So there's no way to be like, oh, well, there's a lot of disadvantages here or there. It seems like they're pretty even. They're ready to go.
All right, so we actually got Jeremy Clute in the house right now.
What's going on,
Applause
Jeremy?
for Jeremy out there.
Yeah, first time in a while. What's up, Jeremy? And he said, I would love to see the Jags win this game, as I think a lot of us would.
Yeah, I think so. Because I
feel
don't think
like
there are any
whenever-
Chargers fans anymore,
Yeah,
right?
I feel like when there's a lot of like underdog, or if there's an underdog in the playoff race or something, we all kind of cheer for that team. If you're not already a fan, obviously, So, but yeah, I mean, we would like to see the Jaguars further, have further success. But it's going to be a tough one for sure.
Yeah. I know Paul Matty's probably going to be drinking heavily during that game and be excited.
He always does.
Right? And then you think he'll still be coherent by the time the Dallas and Tampa Bay comes through that one. So we'll see, I guess, what happens with that one.
Be a stretch.
Yeah, right. But it is Paul. He gets down, and he's invited us to come down and do that. I think it's bourbon he wanted to get down with it.
Right on.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing about this playoffs. I took a look at it and looking at this wild card round is especially, and at least on the NFC side for me, I mean, it's anybody's game at this point because we've seen Philly kind of not look so good. They've got a chink in their armor. Cowboys, Dak Prescott looks absolutely horrible right now. Terrible. You know what I mean? Their defense, trying to do what they can, but they're just leaky as a sieve right now. And again, Seattle sneaks in, but they weren't expected to do a whole bunch. The Giants are in too. I mean, it's nuts. And then the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go and win their division, with a terrible record too, backdooring it into it. So, I mean, this NFC is all over the place. Cody, what do you think about that whole situation?
All right, so the NFC right now, we got a lot of very, very competitive teams. It didn't pan out exactly the way I thought it would be, but just about every matchup, it could be anyone's game. You got the Niners. While they're a 2 seed, you got a rookie at quarterback, and you don't know how he's going to react in his first playoff game. He hasn't faced a whole lot of adversity yet. While Geno Smith, he's been around a while, but he's been a backup most of his career. So it's just going to be very cool to see how these quarterbacks react in this matchup. And it's just, I don't got much else to say, but it's gonna be a good game to watch.
Yeah. You bring up the Seattle and the 49ers one. Again, I mean, luckily it's not going to be in Seattle because then I think the 49ers might be in a little bit of a trouble here too.
Right.
Because, again, strong defense. That's what keeps them going. And again, is Brock Purdy kind of that guy where, I constantly talk about the whole Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl here. Imagine, again, Brock Purdy goes there with the, this defense here riding the shoulders here, and possibly can get a Super Bowl out of this whole situation here. But what kind of even coaching job, with Shanahan to be able to do that? You're going down to your third string quarterback, still be able to produce wins, and, you're making a playoff run and it potentially could go further, but this is going to be a tough matchup here between these two teams. They know each other well, play rough, but at least they're going to be in San Francisco. Those fans go crazy. But, you got Brock Purdy, so they are vulnerable.
Absolutely. And to be fair, Brock Purdy has done a brilliant job for being not only a rookie quarterback to come in here and game manage extremely well, not being asked to do way too much, only in what he can handle well. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's super smart. he has a ton of poise, which is uncanny for a rookie to come in with poise and to be able to not get pressured, not get flustered at times. He's able to stay calm in the pocket, outside the pocket, create time, and deliver the throws. And that's all that Kyle Shanahan would ever want from a guy like this. Guy who still is at the very beginning of his career and able to pull off what he has so far is truly amazing. So it definitely gives the Niners a shot because of that daunting defense that they have and the great offensive personnel that are always backing him up as well. So a lot of weapons. And for Purdy, I hope that they don't ask too much of him because teams are going to be game planning in the playoffs. Going against Brock Purdy, they want to put all the pressure on him. They want to make him make the bad decisions, make him screw up. And we've seen at the very end of the season him kind of get not flustered, but he kind of made a couple of bad decisions, which turned the ball over. And I wonder if that's going to continue to trend into the playoffs.
We actually got a couple comments more from Jeremy hopping back in. He gave his picks. He says, I'm all for the 49ers. The 49ers, the Jags, the Bills, the Giants, the Bengals, and the Bucks.
All right.
Not bad picks. He's with me on most of them.
Right? I mean, it could be any of these teams. And that's what I mean. It's
go either way.
It could go either way. What else does he got here?
Yep, he said also raises big questions on what will the 49ers do for the QB spot going forward since Brock has played pretty well. And do you guys think they will keep Jimmy G?
No.
I don't think so. Again, they kept him here just in case as an insurance policy
Jimmy
here too.
G is a free agent. And like we touched on it in the beginning of the show, like investing that high pick on Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, a surprise.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the organization. They thought that's the guy that they had, but to a lot of people around the NFL. So for his ascension in play already as a rookie and to have Trey Lance, yet another really young dude to maybe come back next year and fight for the starting job. Jimmy G, he served his time with the Niners. He's going to be looking to move on and maybe be a starter elsewhere. So we'll see where he lands.
What's funny with the 49ers, though, too, I think they've kind of been, what makes them unique, they've been able to win still while still searching for their franchise quarterback. They've been able to win with, they make guys like Nick Mullins. People know who Nick Mullins is, and he's played well for them. Yeah. They've had other players that have just been lifetime backups play well, and they still can get some wins and be a playoff team. Right. And I think that's pretty amazing for what it is. But the whole time, have they really had their franchise quarterback?
But
you know what I mean?
The one thing
that's interesting
about
right
that
now,
is not every team has the luxury of having a vet quarterback
Right.
there.
No,
and
I
that's
hear
really
you.
the reason why they've been able to transcend. They've done it the right way. They've done it the smartest way, I'll say, is they had that vet quarterback in their back pocket. They went out, they got their high draft pick, and along the way, they tried some things with Trey Lance before his injury. And then Jimmy G just inserted himself as a vet and kind of kept the ball rolling. He kept the team going in the right direction. Then when he was out, and they're like, we gotta play the kid.
Yeah,
we gotta play the kid. We gotta see if he can handle it. And at the very least, it's going to show us what he can do and what he can't do. And wow, all you can say is this guy's coming as a rookie, very wet behind the ears and not know much in terms of the NFL of how being a pro quarterback and just executing. Just all he had to do is execute on the plays that were needed, and he's done that. And he's done that with amazing, pinpoint accuracy. He's done that with smarts. And now the Niners are sitting back like, we found two. We got two quarterbacks.
Possibly. Again, for me, I'm always just worried, again, because maybe you got another Nick Mullins on your hand, though. So,
yeah, actually, Jeremy brings up a pretty interesting scenario. So the Patriots will welcome him back with open arms, talking about Jimmy G, and then Jimmy G is the future. That would be a little interesting, seeing as how Mac Jones has had a very up and down season. We've heard all the people calling him a dirty player. Does he have the locker room? And Jimmy G had a pretty good record while he was there. He knows the coaches. It's not exactly, it wouldn't be the weirdest thing I've seen.
It's not the strangest
You
thing
might be
we've
able to get
seen.
him on the cheap, too.
And also, it's something that is so Patriots. You know what I mean? They bring back a veteran, former Patriot back into the fold. We've seen it many a times with Kyle Van Noy when he left and went with the Dolphins, came back, and he's played miraculously well for a year. this isn't something that's that crazy to think about. Like, this is something that the Patriots could do as insurance if Mac Jones doesn't work out, with the following year. And they could be like, well, we have Jimmy G in waiting, and let's just put him in, So, I mean, this is something that could happen. I don't think it's likely because Mac Jones is their young guy. Like, there's no reason to derail it right now. And they also have Bailey Zappe, the Zapster, the guy the guy that's been slinging the rock, when he had to come in for Mac Jones and did a pretty good job. So, I don't think it's likely. It's not crazy and out of the box thinking, but. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, who
where
knows?
Jimmy G
Because
goes.
they've proven out of anything, the Patriots. You want to say how great of a franchise they are and stuff, but they've proven that they can't get it done in the draft and that they do well though in free agency. You know what I mean? And picking up guys that are off cuts and rosters and making something out of them. They used to. I know, but that's why you're seeing again. Well, you come back. You're used to us. You come back and bring it in. So that's the only reason why it would make sense. Right? Because they've noticed they've been doing that.
And if just to touch on the Patriots real quick is they used to do everything right, but organizationally, we've noticed them slip on the draft big time. The last few years. They've managed to hit one player here, one player there, but miss most of the time. So now it's like even their drafting is being affected with the constant loss of front office and coaching personnel. It's really kind of trickling down right to the roster.
There we go. We actually got another couple comments coming in. Jeremy decided to throw one more in. Said, I know Joe won't like it, but Brady to the Raiders to reunite the spark with McDaniels.
If you spark, you mean electricity, where Tom Brady wants to electrocute McDaniels, then I get it.
They want to kill us.
Yep, and then on YouTube, Godzilla Media.
What's going on, guys?
He said
Welcome to the show.
It was tough to get preseason Super Bowl picks out of you guys.
Yeah.
Are you willing to make a Super Bowl pick now before playoff kickoff?
No.
No, I don't really do that so much. I mean, we did it 2 years ago, I think, or something like that. But when we were on television and stuff like that, CBS 6, they made us
put us on the spot.
Yeah, put us on television again. Maybe we will.
That's right.
Put the
if we
pressure
get on
really
live
on.
TV, then we guess we have to.
Yeah, make it happen. All right, he says Levac because preseason had the Bills and the Cowboys. God had Eagles and Ravens. I think he said which is more likely now. I said neither. So. I don't think the Cowboys are making it at all. Bills have a good chance.
I'd say neither.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'd say neither. Eagles, again, they have an easier road, I think, still. With Ravens, that depends on what goes on with Lamar. And
no, Lamar's
you
not
know
playing.
what's great? This is what's great about Gaz here. He leads us right into this now. The Ravens game coming up with the Bengals again. Again, you're saying he's not playing, he's not practicing. What's it like for the Ravens now, not having him for 5 weeks now, and then now not into the playoffs? Like, how bad is his injury, and what's going to go on with them and Lamar if they get bounced this year? What's going on with the Ravens here?
We already saw the contracts talks broke down before the season started. Said I'm no longer negotiating with you guys. I'm going to just go play my season and then see what happens.
Yeah.
Little known fact for some of the know-it-alls out there, Lamar Jackson is his own agent. So he makes all the calls, he makes all the decisions, and if he wants to, we'll sign the contract. However, because of talks have broken apart, they weren't even close to begin with. So now that they've been broken apart, he's playing his season, and now he gets injured. All of a sudden, I haven't been around for 5 weeks, and now I guess they worked him out in practice for just very lightly, and he still says himself, "I can't go.
I can't go." Right?
I'm not feeling good.
So
because he's royally screwing Baltimore. That's basically
what it seems like to me, right?
You gotta
But
pay the
how
man.
do that though?
You
too?
have to listen. He wants to be paid. He wants security, just like any other vet would. He wants to be there long term, and if not, he wants out. So this is the crazy thing: is he could very well probably step in for the playoffs and give them a whole new spark and maybe potentially beat the Bengals. But he's choosing, and I don't know if this is true or not, but from whatever we're hearing, it's almost like he's choosing, no, I'm not ready yet. I don't want to. I'm not going to. So it's almost like Lamar doesn't even care about playing in the playoffs. It's just kind of writing it off and putting a lot of pressure on the
Yeah, this could
organization to
go
the point
bad
where
for both situations.
what's going to happen now going into the offseason? Bengals say the Ravens are in and out in round one. They don't make it happen with Tyler Huntley. You know, now all the direction is Lamar. We need to lock him up. We can't afford to lose him because you saw what happened last week. What do you want? Name your price. Let's figure this thing out. But the thing is Lamar's price tag, he wants to be up there with all the rest elitists, all the high-end quarterbacks. And let's face it, Lamar has progressed well as a quarterback coming in, but he is no way, shape, or form that high a caliber of a quarterback. He is not an Aaron Rodgers in his prime. He is not a Tom Brady in his prime. He's not that type of quarterback. He is his best asset is his legs. You know, that's something that has transcended and changed this Ravens offense into what it is today. And now that's what makes him dangerous. It's not his arm. It's not just him standing in the pocket and delivering the football. So going forward, the most difficult thing is to negotiate a contract with Lamar Jackson in the way he feels and views himself and try to come together and meet somewhere in the middle. Because if not, they're going to have to franchise tag him. It's that simple. They're going to have to tag him and keep him there for another year. But really all is that doing is maybe giving you a little bit more time to maybe trade him, because if he doesn't want to come back, he's not going to.
Yeah, I actually think it's a little bit of the opposite. If Lamar does, say he doesn't play in this game, I think we might see the Ravens just all out try and move on at that point. You know, I don't think they'll win with Tyler Huntley, but that shows that Lamar, he's not gonna be the guy that's gonna play through an injury in order to come through for his team and his
that's if
teammates
he's healthy,
in the
too.
playoffs. Yeah, we don't know. You know, we don't know what happens behind closed doors. We don't know if he's just not healthy enough,
We're
or
guessing.
if this is a personal decision by Lamar. But I think if we don't see Lamar, I don't think we're going to see him in a Ravens uniform next season. That's just my opinion on the matter.
Yeah. I mean, that's that could be it. You know what I mean? Because we're seeing this is all going down behind closed doors, like we said, while this is going on, while they're making this playoff push. So it could look bad on either way for Lamar. It could look bad as like maybe if we find out later on that he wasn't as injured, or maybe he was injured and it stinks for the Ravens. But then again, it's negotiations of how much are you worth. To me, it seems a whole really close to what the Cowboys were dancing around with Dak Prescott to me.
Right.
Especially after when you got to lock up contracts, your first note of business after, you know, you're going into the playoffs, we got to sign and ink Roquan Smith to the highest paid linebacker in the NFL or of all time. I mean, are you kidding me right now? I mean, that just sounds stupid to me. I mean, if that's your first plan and that's where your agenda, what you're going to do, it was like when they did it for Jalen Smith for the Cowboys, and then Zeke got his money and blah, blah, blah. So what's next? Is J.K. Dobbins going to get an extension and all of a sudden, you know, contract before Lamar gets a contract?
The thing with the contracts,
it just seems like they don't
Lamar
value
is not
him.
willing to sit down and negotiate right now. He's just not. So if you're not willing to sit down and negotiate, we'll move on to the next guy that we need to lock
and
up.
that same thing happened with Dak Prescott in his camp, I think, too. They weren't really negotiating. He's like, hit my number and I'm out, you know, so I'll let it ride, you know, see if you can hit that number.
And the crazy thing is right now that the Ravens stand at $52 million in cap space. So it's not like they don't have enough money
they got it.
to get it done. And this is days after that Roquan Smith contract. So what's the holdup?
Yeah,
because listen,
it's great because they don't pay wide receivers. I know that much. All right,
we've seen they don't need them, right? But we've seen teams before do this and play this game with franchise quarterbacks and saying, should we give them the money? Should we not give them the money? And when you more times often than not don't give them the money and you move on from them, whether you trade them away or just flat out move on, what's your next step? How are you going to find? There's no guarantee to find a franchise quarterback. So when you had the luxury of having one, and now you dismiss that, that leaves you with nothing. Now you're hoping that the next guy you acquire, whether that be in the draft, whether it be maybe you pull off a trade or sign a veteran free agent quarterback to come in. Yeah. There's no guarantee for success now, and that's going to greatly hinder your organization, your franchise going forward. Because now instead of keep taking steps towards the playoffs and maybe towards a Super Bowl eventually. Now you're taking 15 steps back and starting all over at that position. Good luck maintaining
especially
your winning
you've been
ways.
living for so long.
Oh, we actually got a lot of comments flowing in. We got Mike Tackett said where I was right, predicting the AFC West, and where I was wrong, Colts winning the division.
I think we were all wrong on that one. I think we all got that one wrong.
To be
dude.
fair, I think we all got it wrong.
Yeah, we definitely were terrible on that one,
That's okay, Mike. We'll come back stronger next year.
All right. Who else we got? We also got Jeremy in here. Said didn't really work out for the Cardinals with Murray, and he doesn't deserve a big payday, in my opinion, honestly.
Yeah, with
That's okay, Jeremy,
so for
because
Lamar.
you don't run the Cardinals and they do, and they're sticking
and he
with
doesn't
Kyler.
run the Ravens.
Sadly.
Yeah, so he goes. Mike Tackett's in the house with us tonight too. He says how refreshing it is to see Lamar saying, "If we can't get a deal done before the season, we'll address it after the season." And he goes, he was a man of his word and didn't have an annoying agent bothering him about it during the season.
Yeah, because you know how those agents get. They're like, "Hey, listen, let me work my magic. Let me get this big mega deal right now. What do you think? This is what they're offering right now." Like, imagine the constant back and forth as a player. Like, I've never been close enough to that situation, but I could just imagine the constant phone calls late at night, text messages being sent, like the contract negotiations part of all that. And you got to be like, "Okay, do the deal," or just be like, "Nah, bro, I'm going to bed." You know what I mean? This can wait till tomorrow.
Disgusting. I'm going to kill you. Give me $200.
That's
So,
what's
I
going
mean,
on in
it's crazy
negotiations.
because those agents, they want their cut. They want their
They do.
percentage.
They do. They want their money. So, and that's how it goes. And he wanted to be, like you said, Mike Tackett, a man of his word. He wanted to handle it himself.
Yep,
Didn't
he's
want all
doing
that
that.
nonsense.
For sure.
But it could come around to bite him again because we've seen guys that try and represent themselves, and it doesn't work out too well a lot of times. So, and for him, he's a unique type of player. Like you said, you look at him as a quarterback. If you look at the views of a quarterback and how he is, he doesn't really play the part. But as an athlete and controlling the team and being the leader of the team, it does revolve around him, and he does lead that offense the way he plays
Absolutely.
and what he does. So he is very important at the same time. Of former league MVP.
Right.
So he has that under his belt too, you think about, and he could bring that right up. He's like, yeah, bullet point here,
And think-
MVP here.
And
you
think
know?
about that too. Is Lamar Jackson as himself? He's made the Ravens change their whole offensive playbook to fit him the best and to give them the most success, right?
Right, and I
Well,
think
what's
they can
gonna
still
happen-
change it for somebody else if somebody
I
else
know.
comes in, but
But Greg Roman has always had ties to being a head coach in college football, and he could entertain that at the end of the year. Obviously, he's not going to right now.
Yeah.
But he has offers on the table, and Greg Roman, as creative as he's been with that offense, college is calling. They love creativity down there. So, very possible he leaves, especially if Lamar is gone. If there's any rumblings in the organization of maybe moving on from Lamar, Greg Roman could be like, "Oh, I know when my time is done. I'm going to go be a head coach now in college."
Yeah.
So if that is to happen, now think about that. Not only do you have to reconstruct your offense for whoever is going to be your quarterback,
right.
but you still have that very, very steep hurdle to jump over and to find another guy to lead the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And another game I think that really is dependent on their quarterback not being able to play here too, where I think in the beginning of the season, we looked at this matchup and like, oh, this could be really cool. And we got to see it throughout the season. And that's the Miami Dolphins and what's going on with them. You know, they're rolling. Seems like, hey, we give the weapons to Tua to see what he can do. And I think he's flourished in his offense with it and having that. But since he's been out due to injuries again, and now, what is that, third concussion, Cody, here? You know, something like that?
It's like the 14th.
Yeah, it's like, you know, before it was his legs before. Now, again, the concussions that keep, you know, every time he gets smacked again, it just reoccurs. And I know I've had concussions. It just takes a tap like that now.
Yeah.
So, Joe, don't smack me in the back of the head. I might just all of a sudden forget who I am. Start drooling on myself.
where am I?
And maybe pee my pants. But, you know, it's you don't know what's going to go on with this team now. They've on a losing streak. They're a totally different team without him here. And now they've not only just had Teddy Bridgewater to kind of be that guy to fill in for him, but he went down. So now they're on their third string guy. And we all see what he's capable of not doing, you know. And so now they're in the playoffs. And again, we're looking at Dolphins, Bills, this should be a cool matchup of these offenses, see what they could do.
It would have been.
And now it's just like, I think everybody's like, yeah, I got the Bills on this one. That stinks for them. But now for Tua's career, what does this mean? If he's not back yet now, is he walking away from the game after this possibly? At a young age, but maybe for his safety.
And you talk about walk away from the game, but he might be forced to. It might not even be up to him. I mean, to sustain these many concussions all in a row in one season. Listen, we've seen guys before go concussion after concussion. Look at Wes Welker. When Wes Welker was in his prime, was amazing, and he got concussions, and then he had a lot more throughout his career.
Yeah.
And now that is such a strong point the NFL is driving towards, like
Absolutely, with the
safety,
CTE and everything,
preventing concussions as much as possible. But now with Tua's situation and happening over and over and over and over again, it begs the question now, Tua, like health-wise, living, like you never know. The very next concussion could be so critical where he loses his life. And maybe if he doesn't lose his life, he loses, moving his arms, his legs. It could be catastrophic. It could be super dangerous. So I think Tua and his family this offseason have to sit down, have to talk things out, talk some things with some cerebral professionals out there.
Yeah, neurological.
And try to get all angles covered and figured out before he further plays. Because if he can't, stop these concussions from happening or prevent them from happening,
which you can't. It just is too if they happen. So
it's a roll of the dice, and it could be your life could be over at some point. So for Tua and his family, they're going to have to do their due diligence this offseason, really kind of figure out going forward. And I know it's sad for especially Dolphins fans. Like, hey, we got a quarterback that can move the ball and score points, and we're doing great in the division. And then all of a sudden, this starts happening more and more and more. And now it's a question of health. It's not a question of him being able to come back and play. Now it's more about, could it be life-threatening the next time it happens?
Yep. Yeah, with this whole Tua situation, it's been a roller coaster all season. We've been seeing questionable every week, just waiting like, is this the week he comes back? Is this the week? And it's just not happening. And then he's already ruled out for this week. I don't think he should keep playing. Whether or not he keeps playing will probably be a decision he makes in the offseason. But like this whole matchup, this would have been, if you would have asked me this, week 12, I would have been like, this is going to be great. This would be an excellent
exciting
matchup
for sure.
When the Dolphins were 8-3 and they were competing with everybody. And then when the concussion happened,
correct.
And next thing you know, the Dolphins are 8-8. They're barely even sneaking into the playoffs on an ugly 11-6 win with the Jets. That's just horrible game to watch. You never wanted to see.
Reality is often disappointing.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is like this could have been a matchup if Tua remained mostly healthy. It could have been a great matchup for the playoffs. Think about it: division rivals. They're both playing well. The Dolphins finally on the come up for once, and now
come true.
Exactly, the Dolphins could have made their dreams come true. But that's the crazy thing, and the crazy seasons that have come and gone. Like there's situations like this that happen, and it's like now it's more important. It's about life now. It's about what can he handle anymore?
Yep.
You know what I mean? And if the answer is no, you really got to critically think about that and say, hey, I could end my life the next time. So maybe I should call it quits, retire early, and go do something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, as we take a look at the wild card weekend and coming up here too, there it is. There's the bracket. So, I mean, you look at too, some of the matchups leading up to this whole thing. It could be the fact that, we've got Kansas City playing against, is it going to be the Chargers again, who have already beat Kansas City, So what kind of matchup would that be? The Bills coming in here in this next matchup, and they could face the Bengals now for real and not have that game. We didn't have that game week, 17 like we were supposed to. So maybe we get to see that matchup. That'll be juicy here for them. And then on the opposite side, like I said, the NFC is just all over the map. But there's the Eagles waiting for their matchup here. And let's talk about the Bucks and the Cowboys quick, because that the winner of that team is going to face the Eagles. And again, Eagles, not looking so hot where they didn't put their backups in. They had starters in, and they were playing against the Giants, who had their backups in, just resting some guys. And it was kind of competitive for a while, too. I mean, they were putting out Kenny Golladay, by the way, Joe. There was a reception, for one, but it was for a touchdown, too. Like, oh, my God. You got to get, like, breaking news on this thing.
Wait, is that his first catch and first touchdown all season?
Well, yeah, I know. Oh, I know. It's like... Yeah, exactly.
Yes, you can.
He can do it sometimes, I guess. But
Yeah,
but there's the
once
Eagles
every
waiting
year.
for him. But the Cowboys, like we talked about it again, since even a little bit since Dak came back, he's been doing multiple turnovers, at least one a game.
Right.
And haven't looked the same to where even some of the Cowboys fans frustrated, obviously, really quick the way they are. They're asking for Cooper Rush to come back. I mean, they're ready. Come on, bring him. We were winning then.
They
we were
know
doing
what's
it
up.
right. So a lot of things going on there for Dallas and Tampa, like we talked about even before. Backdooring in. Tom Brady looks frustrated nonstop. These guys still aren't on the same page. Defense isn't as good as it was before. Not running the ball effectively. I think that's a key to their team now. They really got to be able to run that ball with even White back there. He looks really good at times for them, but get Leonard Fournette going again here. Get this run game going to alleviate that pressure there because that offensive line stinks so bad. They're just going after Tom Brady, not
they did get a dosage of a little bit of an upgrade. Ryan Jensen is looking to come back for the playoffs, and
That would be big for him.
If he can listen, the biggest thing for him is pain management at this point, because I don't think he's 100% ready to come back. But I think because of how close they are, because they won the division, he gives them the best chance to hold up in the middle anyway and direct the offensive line. That's what Tom Brady really needs right now. Someone that is he is a captain as well, so someone that can be that leader on the offensive line, make the checks and balances and the calls at the line of scrimmage, and they need that. So for Tampa Bay, that's critical. And you bring up a good point with Leonard Fournette getting more involved, running the football, kind of create that balanced offense that like you guys used to do. If the team can't stop the run, keep running until they try to stop it. Do what's working. We all know Tom Brady can sling it. He's going to throw it to Chris Godwin on those little short routes. He's going to try to attack down the field when he can to Mike Evans and so forth. But get back to what you used to do well. And then defensively, this is a defense that was bitten by the injury bug, was kind of mostly on a downturn all year. Don't know if it's because of health reasons. Don't know if it was just because they were on the field too much. Because the Buccaneers, for whatever reason, were struggling to score points all year. And the Cowboys, you bring up a good point with Dak Prescott and how everyone's calling for Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush, he's the guy that's kind of can run this offense better. Dak Prescott almost beat Derek Carr for interceptions thrown this year. Almost. He came so close.
I think Cody's got the stat. Cody, go to us. Is there a stat about Dak Prescott right now with the interceptions?
And that's the crazy thing is Dak Prescott, for as bad as he's been playing, now the fans are calling for the quarterback now. Now that's what they want.
You see, Dak actually set a NFL first. He was the first player in NFL history to miss at least 5 games and lead the NFL in interceptions.
So there you go.
He did
So
lead-
He
he did
did
lead
lead. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, how about that? That is impressive there for Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. So.
Hey, but we're not benching him.
Hey, he's got to change his sleep number, Joe. I think that's what it is. He's got to change his sleep number, something different. He ain't getting it done. But yeah, I mean, that's why we're looking at this game. Like, man, do we really want to go through this whole thing? I think it's gonna be low scoring. The way it's it's been. Who knows?
The other thing that I have to talk about is the defense.
Yeah.
The Cowboys defense, which once was a strength, tripping over their own feet
Yeah.
at the end of the finish line here.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Like, you lost momentum as an offense, you lost momentum as a defense,
Absolutely.
and you're coming into Tampa. Can you make magic happen?
Yeah, with a team like you're supposed to play the Commanders here, that they're starting their third string
Sam Howell.
quarterback. They're clearly showing you that they're just feeling things out at the end of the season. They're not looking to play spoiler on you and take you out of the playoffs or anything because you're absolutely in still, but they're not doing anything like that. And they decimate you. They destroyed you. I even checked the score again to see. I'm like, wait a minute, let me look at this again. I'm like, they got all their backups in. I'm like, nope, there's Dak Prescott. There's an interception. I'm like, oh, man. I'm like, This is with your starters,
Yeah,
and
it
this
got
team
ugly.
is lighting you up. And this is how you want to enter the playoffs, especially when you have to face the number 1 seed after. Good luck in that whole thing situation there.
Yeah, it felt like just the entire game, you were just waiting for the Cowboys. Like, all right, now
it's
they're going to
going.
start coming on? Now? No. By the end, it was a sad game to watch for them. Seeing Howell just tear their defense apart, drive after drive.
Who ever thought we'd say this?
Yeah, no one did. It was horrible. For the Cowboys and the Buccaneers, there were two teams, very high expectations, and Cowboys have a decent record, but since Dak came back, the offense has just been pretty disappointing, barely skating by a lot of games, and the Buccaneers, they didn't even go 500 this year. No one saw that coming.
And actually take their division still when it was even close right to the end. So at one point in that division, it was Atlanta's division to run, and then the Carolina Panthers made a surge after they looked like they were on a fire sale. And then the Bucs still hung in there and still got it done. But
and
they
that's
look
the
like
funny thing
terrible though.
Is Atlanta had that division. They literally had
Yeah.
that division.
Yeah.
And for them to kind of like give up early,
They did
and
kind of,
and
and
move
pull the
on to the
trigger,
rookie,
yeah.
rookie quarterback,
Yeah.
because maybe they wanted the higher draft pick. That's probably why they said, you know what,
It's
we don't want to win
strange.
the division, we want to keep losing,
We've seen stranger
and just
things.
end it,
Right.
end it,
Right.
Let's start a new next season.
Yeah, we've seen stranger things. As you said, we just saw Lovie Smith get fired, and they just won their last game, then knocked them out of the running for the first overall pick and gave it to the Bears. It's a team he formerly coached. So think of that. Maybe there is a scandal
He's like,
going on
maybe
there.
I
He's
can
like,
get hired
my
by
heart,
them after
my
this
heart
year."
is still with the Bears. Bang, ding, ding. But all right, here, it's playoffs time. Let's talk about the last game here, and then we'll roll into our picks. We appreciate you guys staying with us here tonight. Let us know if there's some of the games you guys want to talk about here. What do you think moving forward? The end of the season's over. Anything surprise you this season? Anything like that? Let us know in the comments. But first, I'm just going to tell you guys about our friends here at Paul Perry Kitchens, who's been a big supporter all season long, too. And again, one location there on Freeman's Bridge Road, 115 Freeman's Bridge Road. They moved, so now you can get everything all in one spot. Custom kitchen, custom closets, glass screen repair, everything all together. So check them out there, 115 Freeman's Bridge Road, or paulperrykitchens.com. All right, now Joe, we're Giants fans here. You're a Raiders fan, but Joe, Cody and I, Giants fans, we're excited. We weren't really foreseeing this in the beginning of the season, but hell, we just made the playoffs, Cody. We're getting the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I can't think of even a better team even to be playing against into the playoffs than the Minnesota Vikings, because I think they're vulnerable still. They've been still that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, much like the Chargers kind of like throughout the season, where they're getting those close victories, which you like to see these teams kind of get, grind them out. But those were games that really shouldn't have been close. And then some of these tougher teams they played really got, demolished and the shit kicked out of them at times. And like you said, they were getting beat by the Colts. Should have got demolished, but just the
Right.
Colts were so bad that they were able to come back on that whole thing. So it
But
was
Jeff
another good
Saturday
story.
knows how to lead men.
Right. And now we're getting them where they're, again, no Dalvin Cook, and Justin Jefferson is frustrated as hell that he's not getting the ball enough. So
I mean, why wouldn't you be? You're the number one wide receiving star in the NFL right now. You're having a great year, and in a game where you would think, Scott Linehan or the offensive coordinator for the Vikings would kind of open up the playbook a little bit and move maybe Justin Jefferson around in better route running concepts to attack that Green Bay defense. That Green Bay defense is susceptible. We've seen it before. Teams willingly throw on them, run the ball on them, mix it up. And for some odd reason, it was such a struggle for Minnesota to figure that out that it was just like, it's definitely frustrating for Justin, for him to not get the football, for him to so-called be clamped up, and not get, any kind of, targets his way. So, I'm not taking anything away from Jair Alexander. I think he's a really good corner, and sometimes he plays amazing, but I think Justin Jefferson runs better routes. I think he could have gotten open, whether with different play calling. So for the Vikings, and the frustration that they've had up to this point, and you're right, they've been up and they've been down all season long. Games we thought they would easily win, they lost. Games we thought that they would run away with, they end up losing. But then when there's games and we're like, oh, this is no doubt Vikings got this, and they fail us. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I can only imagine what it's like to be a Vikings fan. I only know how to lose. I'm a Raiders fan.
Yeah.
So I don't know what winning is. But nonetheless, like, now you come into this matchup against a team like the Giants, who, one, everybody thought wasn't going to be in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They thought they were going to be, hopefully they were going to be, competitive and show some spark this year and maybe prepare for the next. But man, they've managed to gain steam as the Giants defensively playing well, offensively figuring it out with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley and how to make that offense run without receivers, which is amazing. And then here they are in the playoffs, and they have a legitimate shot to win round one. And this is a team that coming into round one has gained a lot of momentum, and they figured some things out that they needed to figure out in the season. And they're here. They're ready. They're ready for Minnesota, and this is like one of those things where Kirk Cousins does not show up in big games. Mm-hmm. And here's a big game. Can Kirk show up? I doubt it, but the Giants, I know they're ready.
Yeah, it's been a great season to watch as a Giants fan. Coming in, I wasn't giving us much of a chance. I was saying, probably 4 wins realistically, maybe 6 if things went really well with the ball. So to see us in the playoffs has been great. To see us actually getting to the level we played against the Colts has been amazing. And the Vikings, they're definitely showing a lot of weaknesses. Jefferson's got to learn to keep his head in the game, even when things aren't going your way. You can't get mad every time someone's calling you out on Twitter. Jair Alexander calling him out before the game, and then even doing the gritty on him during the game, which just probably added to his fire. So, yeah, it's been great. And, I think I kind of lost my train of thought.
All right. It's all good. That happens sometimes, Cody. This is the whole thing with streaming and on the show sometimes. We lose our train of thought all the time, but we bring each other right back in. And you know what makes it interesting, too, is when you look back, because they played each other before. And that was week 16, the Vikings and the Giants, and it was only a 3-point game. They lost 27-24. Yep. So that was the Giants, back then, even with those Richie James as their star receiver. You got Hodgins back there. Again, you when you talk about the Buccaneers and how they're riddled with injuries and stuff like that, at least for a good point of their season, they had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and guys there for Tom Brady to get the ball to. If we had a Chris, Godwin or a Mike Evans at one point for Daniel Jones to throw to, I mean, how amazing would our team be at that point? You know what I mean? So we were doing with a hodgepodge of guys off the street they had to call in. They're still calling guys. They got, James Washington, they just pulled off, out of the practice squad, onto the practice squad. He just got cut by the Cowboys after they go out and get T.Y. Hilton. So, I mean, this is what we're dealing with. But you know what? Like you said before, too, it's about coaching, too. Coaching is a big deal with these guys. And this coach has got these guys fired up so much that we went out there last week with a bunch of backups, and we really put it to the number one team and showed them, like, we're here to fight with whoever we have. It doesn't matter who's out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so that's why I think it's good about playing the Vikings right now, is because right now the Giants look pretty dangerous. And like I said, last time it was a 3-point game. If we get a Daniel Jones, like Cody talked about before, when he played against the Colts, all around, like 100 yards rushing and 200 yards passing or so, and a couple rushing touchdowns, it's going to be pretty scary. It's going to be a rough day for the Minnesota Vikings, absolutely.
And that's why they got all that momentum. They've figured out the kinks that they needed to along the way offensively. Mm-hmm. The defense came together stronger and better than ever.
Right.
And they're healthier now. Mm-hmm. You look at this team like, we're like, oh, yeah, but who's your receivers? Who cares? Like, it's that next man up mentality that they've always had. Mm-hmm. That, listen, we're going to beat you with 4 stringers. We're going to beat you with old James Malone down on the corner. We'll beat you with anybody that we can get our hands on. So that mentality builds character, and that character has really fueled the Giants coming into the playoffs. So I think they're going to be an extremely tough out for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's a look at the playoff picture, Joe. One more time, Cody. Let's go take a look at it here. Here's the brackets here. That's all the matchups here. So it is time for the picks here. So we're going to get through the picks. We're gonna start. We're gonna do a snake, back and forth here. So I'll just start off here with the first one. What do we got, Cody? What is the first one? The earliest game for this matchup here.
We're going to be kicking it off with the 49ers and the Seahawks. Kicking off was a Saturday at 4:30.
That's right. We got games on Saturday again. Right? Saturday at 4:30. He's got the helmet so even matched up right there as the matchups behind him. That is some tricky stuff right there. That's some nice stuff. I like the Easter eggs. But 49ers, Seahawks for me, again, it's going to be tough. I said if they were in Seattle,
right,
anything could happen here just because, again, you got a young quarterback here going into that dangerous environment would be tough. But the fact that there it is, San Francisco, that squad gets fired up. That crowd does too as well. Defense is crazy. And again, when you got a quarterback, a third-string quarterback that's in there, it's nice. It's easy to look good when you got a Christian McCaffrey and those guys to toss it to and running to on top of it. So it makes it easy for him. It makes it nice. So I like the and George Kittle too. I mean, you can't forget about these guys. I like the 49ers in this one.
Yeah, the game is decided in the trenches. The 49ers have a great offensive line. They got a great defensive line. And their defense, we've mentioned it before, is amazing. Like they do play well. They are susceptible, however. We've seen other teams that were weaker foes kind of put them on their heels a little bit. So I don't think this is a clean slate, like easy game for anybody, whether you're a Seahawk fan or a Niner fan. A lot can happen in these playoff games. It's going to be completely different. For Seattle, you like what you've managed to be able to accomplish. And now you have another daunting task to try to beat the 49ers in their own home. Because the 12th man isn't around, it's going to make it extremely difficult that they don't have that backing that they would love to have. So Seattle going into San Fran, not having Kenneth Walker III as of right now. He did not practice. DJ Dallas also did not practice. So their running backs, who knows who they're going to end up with come the playoff game. But all in all, I think that the Niners, this is their game to win. We've kind of seen this team come together so much so that very difficult out. They're at home, and they've been playing great football up to this point. I'm going Niners.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I'll start with, while I will be agreeing with going with the Niners, I think this is going to be the kind of game that goes right down to the very end. Mm-hmm. And I actually think the Seahawks will be the team that comes out and lands that first punch while Purdy's still kind of getting his legs under him. He hasn't had to face much adversity yet. It's been a fairly smooth ride. Even from game one, he came right in, hit a couple big passes, and everyone's been hyped on him since day one right there against the Buccaneers. But at the end of the day, the Niners defense, I won't say they have more weapons, but they're just a more consistent offensive team. I think they're going to pull out a close win, but I'd be shocked to see them win by more than a possession. All right, so I think that'll include that into the next one. We got the... it's like a cheat sheet.
Yeah. Where's your notes, damn it?
I know. I forgot to take... That's not the point, though.
That's right. We actually have a screen over here that shows the matchups, too, Cody. You can always go to the matchups like here. But again, what's the early game?
That is a very good
So there
point.
you go. Here, let's just go through it. What do we got then?
All right, so we got the Jaguars and the Chargers coming up after that, which should be a great game depending on what version of the teams we end up getting. Hopefully it ends up being a shootout where we actually really get to see all the weapons making plays like they should be. And I actually think the Jaguars should be able to pull out a close win. They've got a lot of momentum. And I just think the Chargers, if they come out firing, they need a bit more right now.
Yeah, I mean, this game is very, very tricky to pick. There's no clear-cut team that is like, oh, well, they're head and tails above that other team. Chargers, they've had their fair share of struggles throughout the year. I don't like the way they've been trending into the playoffs. They've kind of been, hit or miss a lot of times, and quite often have been like having to come back to try to win games. I don't think that's going to play well if they go over to Jacksonville, where they're not going to have the crowd behind them, and they don't know what that feels like to have a home crowd. But the Jacksonville Jaguars, however, have that momentum going into the playoffs. The defense is pretty healthy. Their offense has been playing pretty well down the stretch. And if they can kind of come together in Jacksonville, I think the Jaguars have a legitimate shot to upset the Chargers. The Chargers are favored in this game, but man, I don't know. Maybe the Chargers and the head coach makes too many fourth down calls and tries to go for it, and the Jaguars stop them, turn the ball over, and it could be a whole scenario where the Jaguars could kind of steal this game, and the Chargers yet again get kicked out of playoff contention.
Right. Imagine that. Again, these teams have played each other before. Again, the Jags put it to the Chargers last time. So do the Chargers learn something from that, before?
Go for it on fourth down more?
Yeah. Let's go for it on 4th and 5 now instead of 4th and 2. Maybe that'd be fine. We'll make it work. It'll be different. This team always gets me, Joe. We talk about it nonstop. It drives me crazy.
They get everybody.
Yeah, I know. And how I've been like, I don't know how. Yes, they made the playoffs, but Brandon Staley, how there's not a microscope under this guy and the way he manages this team, because it's do or die, and a lot of times it's dying out there,
Right.
How many other games would they have won where they didn't barely have to sneak into the playoffs? They would have easily had their spot in the playoffs and then maybe potentially had a spot to rest some guys and stuff. You know what I mean? He's put them in terrible situations. I don't care what the analytics say. And it's tough to pick them. Right. So I've seen the Jacksonville Jaguars before play them and beat the crap out of them. Did they learn something? Yeah, it's tough to go on this. So,
really
but the Jags have been really riding high, get that offense going better than when they actually played them. So, you know what? I'm going to go with the Jags on this one too as well. And is it really so much an upset right now? Because again, we've seen if you lose so many times in the playoffs, it's almost like saying, the Cowboys have got to be, if they lose, is that an upset? Because I don't know, we maybe expected them to lose. What I'm saying? Because the history repeats itself.
It's interesting that you say that too, is because I think all eyes in the upper deck in the front office are on Staley for this game. I feel like if Staley happens to lose this game, it opens up the conversation of maybe we should move on from and go in a different direction.
Yeah, because not even that's just losing seasons is where your expectations are met. And if you still didn't meet those expectations, there's probable cause for you to be fired, probably. So.
Yep. All right. So next we actually got the Bills and the Dolphins. After that, Jimmy, if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, absolutely. The Bills and the Dolphins. Hey, this is an easy one here, right? It's got to be the Bills on this one because again, we talked about it before. The multiple concussions for Tua, and we got into the whole situation feeling bad for him and looking at his career under a periscope or microscope here and what it might lead for him in the future. But this Dolphins team too, that could change things altogether for these guys. So, being where they are now, they're in the playoffs. They might be out a quarterback now because you got Teddy Bridgewater that obviously was a stopgap type of guy here, a veteran there to be there in case something happened, something like this, or just the injuries in general. And Thompson's not the guy. So what do you do moving forward? Do you go and try? You've seen you have the weapons. Do you go and try and make a play on a Tom Brady? Because we've seen or heard the murmurs maybe too that maybe Miami was in play for Tom Brady during the before in free agency and stuff. So do they pull the trigger on that now with this looming situation that's going on? Who knows? We'll see after the playoffs all over. But at this point right now, without getting into too much, the Bills, they're one of the powerhouses to beat in this AFC right now, and they've got to prove it, and they've got to put a stomp out on the Dolphins here. I like the Bills.
Absolutely. The weird thing about this situation at quarterback now is now we're questioning the availability or future health of Tua. Will he continue to play? The organization is already thinking about it, and should they move on from him and not even give him the decision? Teddy Bridgewater, as of right now, is limited this year or this week. There's no way, easy way to say this, but like Skylar Thompson might not be the starter. He's trended to be, but they can make a last minute decision and have Bridgewater be the starting quarterback. Now that's going to be all come down to his grip. We've seen him struggle with it when he hurt his pinky and everything, and how he just really couldn't grip the football, couldn't throw it. So pain management, again, there's that word again, where you have to go into the playoffs and can you handle it? Can you handle the pain? Can you deal with it? Bridgewater, it's going to be a big question for him for this game. And it is interesting that you brought up the possibility of going after a free agent quarterback or maybe even looking into trade for one for Miami, because if they do plan on moving on from Tua, there's definitely plenty of options. So very interesting. But the Bills and the Dolphins game, what can you say?
Yeah.
I mean, you're very uncertain. You don't have Tua. Otherwise, I might even go Miami in this one. But no Tua, there's no chance. The Bills, they're going to come ready. Their defense, their offense, Josh Allen's going to look to put on a show. It's Bills all the way.
Yeah, I think regardless of whether it's Skylar Thompson or Teddy that we see out there, this game's probably not going to be close from the start. We've seen a couple games this season where the Bills got up early and just kept on scoring and making the game worse and worse. And I hope that this game doesn't turn into that. I hope the Dolphins can make plays. I hope Tyreek can pull off some crazy magical 80-yard touchdown. But at the end of the day, the Bills are probably going to run away with this game. And
Yeah, absolutely. And then even with the emotions that they have got going on recently too here with the DeMar Hamlin thing and stuff like that too. I mean, they're high powered. I think right now they feel it's destiny.
It's great news right now. DeMar Hamlin out of the hospital, like
home.
amazing. It's an amazing
From
turnaround.
what we were texting during and it happened, and I feared that he might have passed away the way it was the situation
looking rough at
it was
first.
something I'd never witnessed before. So yeah, absolutely, for him to be home, it's amazing, and it's cool to see how everybody around the NFL and around the world all together that never knew about this guy
All came
you,
together.
You go to Google and
was
instantly
nice
his
to
name's
see.
there, searched. So, and the donations too on top of it. So
Yeah, it was nice in a world kind of where we see a lot of the negative constantly. It was
sickening
really
a-holes,
nice,
yeah.
From the minute it happened, seeing the teams praying together to all the respectable fan bases donating to Hamlin's charity. It's been a very refreshing thing to see.
absolutely.
All right, but yeah, I'll be going with the Bills, and after that, we got the Giants and the Vikings, which should prove to be one of the better matchups coming in. It's probably going to be close the whole way through. If we can see that Giants team we saw against the Colts, I think they can really pull this game out. The Vikings are coming in. We don't know, how healthy Dalvin Cook is after he suffered an injury last week. So I will be going Giants, actually. I know it's a little biased, but I will be going Giants.
I like the pick. I'm not gonna lie. Minnesota Vikings so far, Dalvin Cook's not even on the injury report. So I think he's ready to go. Cam Dantzler, a few other big names. They're looking like they're limited. They have a good chance of playing in the game. But all in all, it's going to come down to Kirk Cousins for Minnesota. I mean, it just is what it is at this point. Kirk has to step up in big games and help the team win. And so far, he hasn't been able to do it. He's going to look for another opportunity this year, and he's got to prove himself. If he can't win the big game, this is critical. The Vikings might be going in a whole different direction in terms of quarterback. They might not even re-sign Kirk Cousins and move on and go find their guy. So, big kind of like audition now for Kirk Cousins in this game. For the Giants, we've talked about it before. Good defense, momentum is carrying them right into this, and they got a lot of it. They've been able to pull off some things that we didn't anticipate, and I think they continue to do so. I think they're going to go into Minnesota, and I think the Giants are going to win this game.
All right. Joe's in on the Giants too as well. Man, again, if you want to look at this too, Cody, and everybody, we haven't focused on this here, but Joe did take a one more game lead. I mean, because I decided to go with the Rams on that one, but that one went down into overtime too. So what a game. It was close here, but I'm one game down here. So I feel like the Minnesota
a lot
Vikings
of times this season, when we went opposite ends,
yeah,
they were always super close games,
absolutely.
and it would be some kind of fluke play or a field goal, game-winning field goal, something, and that's how it ended.
Oh, these competitions are so much better now, Joe, and I can't wait till even next year we get Cody involved. So, because then now we can get crazier. Maybe we do the punishment week, like weekly punishments for the loser each week.
Jesus.
We can get really into it, right?
Each week.
Each
I
week.
might not be standing by the end of the year.
Well, not even like the alcohol, but also like the one chip challenge or something different. But it could get crazy here. But yeah, there we are. It's tight. It's close. Do I go Minnesota? I don't think I can at this point too. Again, because they're hard to trust. I can't trust them at all. And I'm a Giants fan now. I picked against the Giants to try and for my own good throughout the season too. So that's where some of my picks went too. Because I was instantly like, if I pick them to lose, they're going to win. So this is going to work for me.
It works out both ways for you.
Yeah, so this might work, but I really feel confident in what they're doing. They're going in with their best foot forward, unlike I think the Minnesota Vikings, even though they did pull out a victory. not looking so good, not very, reassuring here and confident going into the playoffs. So I'm going with the G-Men as well.
Yeah, there
it's
we
going to be
go.
exciting. Let's go in on this. Hopefully we can take it to the next level here. Why not? We
gotta
got
root for
Greg
some
Snyder's
team.
in the house. Greg Schreiner's in the house with us tonight here.
What's going on, Greg? Welcome to the show,
What's
bro.
he got, Cody? What does he say?
He says, I like the Giants also, so he'll be hopping on that bandwagon with us. And
Come aboard, brother. Come on in.
Vikings don't have the spadazz. I assume he means pizzazz that DeBall does.
I like spadazz, though. I like
Spadazz
spadazz. We
is
should
pretty
say that
fancy.
for now.
Let's
Pizzazz,
create that right
spadazz
now.
is better.
Greg started it. That's a new term we're going to
Yes,
use.
yes,
Spadazz.
yeah.
Yeah.
It could be a mixture
Bookmark
of
that
something.
one.
Maybe it's like spectacular pizzazz. So then he's just spadazz.
It's very spadazz.
Who knows? I like it though. I like it. Let's move forward with this one. But yeah, we got the Giants in there. Cody, next matchup. What do we got?
And next we got the Bengals and the Ravens.
Bengals and Ravens. Again, this
Oh,
one.
my.
This one could be a little more interesting too. if
be.
I think Pizzazz, spadazz equals it. and there you go. See, there you go. All right, so, oh man, so it equals a movie from the '80s or a Stephen King movie. Yeah, this one would be more interesting. I think if Lamar Jackson was playing. I think throughout the game, they're going to look, especially if Hundley is struggling, they're going to keep looking to the sidelines at Lamar. Like, oh,
Hey,
what's
hey,
going on
hey,
here?
buddy.
Lamar, I know the contract's looming. There he is. He's not going to be able to play. It's sad, blah, blah, blah. But, we've seen Hundley be able to pull out some victories here before and run this offense much like Lamar. It just he doesn't have that X factor,
he doesn't have
that
that
next
spadazz.
level. If you talk it, he
That's
doesn't have
right.
the spadazz.
He doesn't have the spadazz.
And like you're talking about with those Madden players, he doesn't have the X factor that you can kick in and go to like Lamar does. That ball carrier vision. So that happening and the way the Bengals have been playing again, right there, lights out, really getting there, moving forward. And the Ravens, you see them, they're on a losing streak right now. You don't like to see them backdoor in. And the Bengals have been on fire, moving the ball along the way with the offense and the defense. And that jungle, we talked about it, that atmosphere in Cincinnati. You said that fans, they're diehards nonstop
Oh, they
between
sure
losing and winning. They feel like they're the team right now. They're like, screw the team from up north here, the Buffalo Bills. We are really the team. We who day. We're going to go crazy here. You know what I'm saying? We're the real fans. So, I think they're excited too. They're going to get it done here. I like the Bengals here at home.
Yeah, the Bengals. I mean, it's an exciting time for Bengals fans because as of last year, they were kind of surprised on how well the team was playing and how far they got in the playoffs. Now they're expecting it, so you got to deliver this year, right? They managed and they go out and they make those big upgrades on the offensive line, which was their biggest weakness last season, and here they are yet again. They're in the playoffs. They're the third seed. They're looking to wreak havoc in the playoffs. How far can they possibly go? Super Bowl, maybe?
Inquiring
And
minds wanna know.
and this is a team that is not just lukewarm. They're red hot right now.
Yeah.
They have a ton of momentum. And is it going to stop here? I don't think so. Not when you're playing against a Ravens Lamar-less team. They don't have their go-to guy at the quarterback position. They're going to rely on Tyler Huntley. Now, you're right. He's won some games for them. He's helped along the way. But again, you're not Lamar. You're not the difference maker that they're going to need against a red-hot Bengals team. So, although I think this game is going to be, because it is a division rivalry, it's always a close game. It's always down to the wire. I don't see this being a blowout. But I would say if the Ravens do have a shot, it's not like they're going to get wiped the floor with. But the Bengals, they've been on such a tear lately that it's hard to pick against them. And them being home on top of it just adds the cherry on top.
All right. So, yeah, I think with Hundley out there, it's going to be an uphill battle. As much as he's done pretty good when called upon. He throws for a couple TDs in most of his games. But the Bengals are on fire right now. They want that rematch. They want to finish that game with the Bills. Maybe they thought they could have earned that one seed. They came out in that game. They looked good. They just destroyed the Ravens.
Really good.
They could have been right up there. But regardless, they're still in a good situation. They're probably going to come out. It's going to be hard for the Ravens to stop Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon. These guys are going to go crazy, even though we still don't know the status of T. Higgins. I don't believe he's practicing yet. But I will be also joining you guys on the Bengals bandwagon.
All right.
Yeah, T. Higgins right now has an illness. He didn't practice Wednesday.
Yep.
but he's going to play. Like, there's no doubt about it. This is the playoffs. You're playing.
Yeah.
I don't
Sick-
care if you're
sick or
spitting
not.
puke in the bathroom. You're going out there.
Yeah, I know. And Cody was right. You know, when he talked about the momentum in that game, if it wasn't for what happened with DeMar Hamlin, I mean, the Bengals had the momentum. Absolutely.
Red
I mean,
hot.
woo,
Red hot.
they were ready.
Yep, and with that, we're into our last playoff matchup now. We got the Cowboys and the
great.
Bucks on Monday nights.
So excited.
Yeah. Will probably
Yeah.
end up being the lowest scoring of all of the playoff games.
Probably the lowest viewed, too.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah, right?
And I won't.
No,
be
there's a
watching.
lot of douchebag Cowboys fans out there. And still, like, front-running, Bucks fans that came out of nowhere. So they have a losing playoffs this year. They'll disappear again. You won't see Buccaneers fans for a while.
That's right.
Yep, we're hoping we can start to see flashes of that Dak Prescott who just got his big deal in this game. But I don't know if I don't think I'm that confident in it. Brady's been here, done that. When he needs to step up, Brady steps up. And this Cowboys defense is coming off a horrible week where Sam Howell destroyed them. If Sam Howell can do it, I think Tom Brady can do it. So I'll be going with the Bucks in this matchup.
Gotcha. And that's the thing. This is like the playoff game of losers. Like, honestly, like this season, the Buccaneers have not looked good at all. The Cowboys, sometimes they looked good, but oh my God, like both organizations just have not ended up where they thought they would. Like the Cowboys were going for the division. The Buccaneers were going to yet again, win the division with grace and a winning record. That didn't happen. So now the Cowboys are facing the Buccaneers. I don't know what to expect in this game because who's going to play worse, I guess, is the best scenario. Who doesn't want to win this game? We've seen, just like you mentioned, Cody, the Cowboys defense kind of just falling over each other, not executing, not playing well at the last couple of games, and Dak Prescott playing absolutely horrendous. So one thing is for sure, the Cowboys got a tough decision to make at the end of the year. Tony Pollard is due to be a free agent. You've already paid Zeke about $15 million on average per year. Mm-hmm. Are you going to back the Brinks truck to try to keep Tony Pollard at bay? Or are you just going to tag him and pay him for 1 year rental? So that's a huge decision they're going to have to make. And they can't get out of Zeke's contract. I looked. It's ironclad with penalties. So Cowboys got a real tough decision there. But into this game, their decision is go after Brady and try to make something happen. But Brady, even with a porous offensive line all year, I feel like he has the weapons to expose the Cowboys defense. He's got Chris Godwin that can take care of the linebackers underneath. He's going to be able to get his catches and his yards after the catch. Mike Evans is going to open up the top of the defense. When they do a double move, because it's only going to happens every big game, but they're going to do a double move on 7.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And when they do that double move on 7, it's going to be Mike Evans with the hand up, wide open down the field for a touchdown. Yep. Just like you said, Jimmy, improvise and utilize Leonard Fournette in the run game, make the Cowboys think that you're going to try to pound the rock on them and then deliver those strikes all over the football field. If they do that, I feel like not only will the Buccaneers put up points for the first time all year, but their defense will finally get a chance to rest, and maybe we might see a whole different defense out there. So I'm going with Tampa Bay in this one.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay really has a spazz. Absolutely.
They got all the spazz.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is what it is. This is his final probably hurrah here altogether. You've seen the frustrations. He's gone through the divorce this season, after coming back, out of retirement to maybe go make one last run here. But with this team, it doesn't look highly likely here. But again, playing a Cowboys team that not looking very good, and they played each other week 1. The Cowboys lost 19-3. Dak Prescott, 134 yards and an interception and sacked twice with a rating of 47.
Yikes.
That was the beginning of the season.
Right.
And look how he's playing now. Very similar. Yes, that defense would play a little better, and you had everybody healthy that game, but that's when a lot of those offensive linemen got injured right in that game.
Yep.
So that's going to make this a little tighter, but this Cowboys offense isn't putting up points either, much like in the beginning of the season. So they weren't even able to put up a touchdown then. So I think you're going to see a lot of the same. It might be closer just because of injuries, but again, if you look at the weapons that Tom Brady has on top of what Dak Prescott has, Tom Brady still frustrated with issues and not playing well, but not a turnover machine, much like what Dak Prescott is. I think that's a deciding factor. It's a story of a man named Brady. I think he gets the win here, but then he's got a tough team in that Philly team
right after that.
next week.
That's
so
that's
that could be all she wrote after
is
this.
for this game. What's interesting is that if Brady is to win and move on, and maybe see something in Tampa, does that change his mind at all not to leave? Does it maybe come back for yet another year with Tampa? That's going to be something that we have to monitor because for all the reports out there saying, oh, nope, he's definitely out. He's going to leave Tampa. He's going somewhere else. We just don't know where. So that's something to watch for too.
I don't know. That's it. That's all the games. That's the picks for you. The wild card weekend. It's getting tight. Like I said, here Joe's got me by a game here too. Cody's involved in it now too. But we all picked the same exact picks this week, so we're all just gonna sit back and watch with no frustration at all. Here, just see what happens.
It might be frustrating.
Yeah, we could be because again we're Giants fans here because we go. What are the Giants doing here? But I think we're happy with that. We made it here. And excited to see how far we can go. What's to happen in the offseason, too, with the Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley situation, too, after we finish, whatever week it might be. A lot of stuff in this offseason coming up. And next week, I think, because we're going to have the next week coming in, the, semifinals here for this playoffs. We'll go take a look back at what we did and said maybe in the season and maybe take a look back at some of our under – the radar players too that a lot of people didn't notice so much, this season, but we did take a look at them and see who is a shining star and a bunch of guys out there because there was plenty of them because of injuries too, so you got to see a lot of these younger guys and different guys that normally wouldn't get a chance to play. Start balling. Before we head out, but I just want to see the comment here by Greg Schreiner. What do we got here, Cody?
He said, I'm expecting to see a Stephen A. Smith posting another video mocking Cowboys fans after the Bucs beat them on the final play of the game, basically saying the Cowboys are going to lose in a sweet fashion.
Man, yeah, Stephen A. Man, he should just keep his mouth shut. He's one of those. He's one of those Giants fans that makes people hate the Giants fans, stuff like that. Much like, when we hate other teams, Cowboys, stuff like that. He's the mouthy guy. And when he clearly doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Not at all.
At all. Like when they ask his opinion on NFL shows, I have no idea why they even bother.
He's an NBA analyst.
Yeah, stick with that.
Don't talk about the NFL because you really don't understand the ins and outs of it.
Yeah. It's almost like asking Taylor from Sports with an A to Z to talk NFL too, when he knows nothing about the NFL at all, and he's a Colts fan, so it's clear he knows nothing about the NFL. Stick with NBA. That's what you know, right?
Stay in your lane.
Always goes for the hot takes.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
Stuff that'll get people's attention.
You got no spadazz.
Yeah. Stephen A. does not have the spadazz. So there you go, Greg. It's a pleasure having you with us here tonight. Absolutely, sending it out on a great note. We learned a new word.
We got a new word.
There we go. Thank you so much, and everybody that's been listening to us on Spotify too as well. Share the love. Joe, tell us what they can do here.
It's real simple. I mean, isn't it? I mean, listen, if you've lasted this long, kudos to you because it's been a long show. But thanks everybody out there, all you know-it-alls that have chimed in, that have dropped a comment and everything. We know that you're not afraid now. You're not afraid of us. So listen, this is the whole deal. We're going to respond. We're going to react to your comments, any questions you might have. That's what this is all about. We're the most interactive talk football show there is. Check here. Head over to YouTube. Search us up, Football on the No Show. Hit that subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell to let you guys know when we go live. You can also follow us on Facebook, on Twitter at FB_no, and anywhere you get your podcasts. You can take us with you. Spotify, iTunes, you name it, drop the follow. If you want to be more interactive, if you want to talk some football with us, join us here Wednesday nights live. Drop a comment down below. Become a member. Become a know-it-all.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to continue to make changes to the studio and stuff like that. We're still feeling things out, so you're going to see it all throughout this playoffs, and it's going to be exciting. So we can't wait, and we will see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday nights for more Football on the No with Jim and Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday nights for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.